In Killzone, Moipis City, a huge dragon flies across the sky, breathing fire and destroying everything below. Buildings burn and people run in panic. The frontliners wonder why it suddenly appeared. Then one of them spots White Knight, the player who crossed the national border alone. Zichuan, the guild master of the Desolate Ghost Guild, says the gap is simply too big. He wonders if this is the true strength of the Divine Dragon Empire's strongest player. They already know Moipis won't be able to hold out. None of them can believe that a single person could cause destruction on this level. And yet, that's exactly what's happening. The necromancer White Knight is riding the dragon above them. To everyone watching, he looks less like a player, and more like a terrifying monster. Then the necromancer White Knight releases his undead legion, sending them out to devour everything and absorb even more power. But even now, he says his strength still isn't enough. He values this life given to him by the Myriad Worlds game. His goal is simple: become stronger. After all, he once had only 1 health point left and barely 1 year to live. He stood at death's door, yet somehow survived and climbed all the way to this point. Several months earlier, on Blue Star. Inside a hospital room, a man lies on a bed, connected to life support machines. His name is Su Mubai. Standing beside him, someone starts adjusting the machine and coldly tells him that if he dies, he better not come back to haunt her. Mubai instantly recognizes the voice. Liu Ruyan. Even though his body can't move, his mind is still clear. He wonders why they're unplugging the equipment when he isn't even dead yet, especially when she's supposed to be his fiancée. But Ruyan calmly says he's no different from a dead person anyway, and that she's simply doing him a favor. Mubai finds the situation almost laughable. He was once Blue Star's #1 gamer, a man with assets worth trillions. Yet after a terrible accident, he ended up as a vegetable. Now he can hear everything around him, but he can't move a single finger. He refuses to accept this fate, and he has no idea how things turned out like this. Suddenly, a blonde man barges into the room and asks Ruyan why she's hesitating. This man is Zhao Shu, Mubai's university classmate. He sneers and asks if she actually fell in love with Mubai and can't bring herself to finish the job. Hearing this, Mubai is stunned. He can't understand why Zhao Shu suddenly showed up here. Zhao Shu then points out that Mubai's parents are already dead. Once Mubai dies, Ruyan will inherit his entire fortune. Only then does Mubai realize the horrifying truth. The two of them have been secretly involved all along. Zhao Shu pulls Ruyan into his arms and proudly reveals that 5 years ago, he was the one who arranged for her to get close to Mubai. Everything was part of a plan leading up to this very moment. Ruyan coldly replies that it's Shu's fault for failing to kill Mubai in the car crash, forcing them to go through all this trouble. Mubai is filled with disbelief. From the very beginning of university, he treated them like family, like a brother and a lover he could trust. Zhao Shu admits he never expected Mubai to survive such a brutal accident. But today, even if God himself appeared, Mubai wouldn't be saved. Then he reaches forward and removes Mubai's oxygen mask. After that, he starts flirting with Ruyan, but she tells him not to rush things. Even if they plan to move rooms soon, doing something like that in front of a dead man feels like bad luck. Laughing, Zhao Shu lifts her into his arms like a princess and warns that he'll deal with her properly in a moment. She playfully calls him a bad boy. Meanwhile, Mubai's mind remains completely conscious, but his body is slowly failing as he struggles to breathe. He finally understands the cruel truth. From the day they first met him, the two of them had been plotting everything. Even so, he desperately tries to move his body. He refuses to accept dying like this. He can't believe this is how his life will end, no matter what. He refuses to give up. Suddenly, a mysterious door appears out of nowhere. The strange sight shocks everyone. Some people even believe it might be the start of an alien invasion. Then a voice announces that Blue Star has been selected to participate in the Myriad Worlds game. All participants will start from zero and begin a brand new life. Mass transmigration will begin in 30 seconds. At the same time, information about the game is directly placed into everyone's mind, allowing them to recall it instantly. People quickly realize the information is real. Data about the Myriad Worlds game suddenly appears in their thoughts. One woman nervously wonders what kind of game this could be. A man nearby says the ones who should really be worried are the rich and powerful, because this game has no pay-to-win system. Meanwhile, Ruyan and Zhao Shu are lying in bed when the screens appear. Ruyan panics, saying she doesn't even know how to play games and fighting alien races sounds extremely dangerous. Zhao Shu, however, is furious. He complains that he was just about to become a billionaire, and now none of the wealth from reality can be brought into the game. Ruyan suddenly remembers something. As long as someone still has a single breath left, they can enter the Myriad Worlds game. She wonders if Mu Bai might be able to enter as well. Zhao scoffs and says, even if Mu Bai manages to last 30 seconds, someone in his condition would only enter the game as a cripple. Soon, the countdown reaches 0. The teleportation begins. Mu Bai is still alive through all of this. To him, this feels like a final chance given by heaven itself. He refuses to die here. He refuses to give up. As the teleportation starts, streaks of light fly toward the door. Some people panic as they are pulled toward it, terrified of leaving their homes behind. But others welcome the change with excitement, ready to begin their new lives. Someone lands inside the Descender's temple. It's Mu Bai. He quickly realizes this isn't a dream. He can stand again. A system voice welcomes Blue Star players to the Myriad Worlds game and begins scanning body data. After entering the game, he receives the identity of a Descender and is asked to register a name. Mu Bai can't help but think, being alive again feels truly good. He chooses the name White Knight. The registration succeeds, and his beginning talent awakens. All players entering the Myriad Worlds game awaken a talent in the Starry Sky Hall. Talents are divided into 9 ranks, from the lowest F rank to the highest SSS rank. Anyone who wants to rise in this world needs a powerful talent. White Knight can only hope his luck isn't terrible, and surprisingly, his luck isn't bad at all. He awakens the S rank Forbidden Talent, Promotion. Even he didn't expect to obtain something this powerful. The talent has 3 effects. First is Promotion, which can permanently raise any object by 1 tier without cost. Second is Sublimation, which consumes resources to permanently raise an object by 2 tiers. Third is Cataclysm, which consumes lifespan to raise an object by 3 tiers and adds a special Cataclysm effect. Luckily, the first use of Cataclysm has no cost. Basic classes fall into 4 major categories: Physical, Magic, Defense, and Support. White Knight wonders if he should become a warrior or a mage, but then the system scans his starting attributes and announces they don't meet the requirements. Several classes are immediately removed from the selection list. White Knight is confused about what that means. Soon, the system reveals the result. Based on his initial attributes, the only class he can choose is Necromancer. The system automatically assigns the class. In other words, he never had a choice to begin with. Still, being a Necromancer isn't the worst outcome. But then he notices something strange. His health is permanently set to 1 HP. To his shock, he truly has only 1 drop of blood. A single hit could kill him. Even worse, his remaining lifespan is only 1 year. At that moment, White Knight almost feels the S-rank talent is pointless. Still, he has no choice but to take a gamble. After all, he just awakened the Promotion talent, so he decides to promote his class. Promoting Necromancer by 3 tiers would normally require 100,000 years of lifespan. Fortunately, he still has 1 free use of the Cataclysm effect. Without hesitation, he confirms the upgrade. The system immediately congratulates him for evolving into the exclusive hidden class, Death Sovereign. His attribute growth changes, and he now gains 15 free attribute points every level up. He also learns 2 new skills, Lifelink and Summon Amplification. On top of that, he receives the exclusive item Book of Death. His hidden class now carries the powerful Cataclysm characteristic. White Knight can't help but feel satisfied with the result. Right then, the system announces that the Myriad Worlds game will officially begin in 10 seconds and advises all players to prepare. White Knight realizes he spent almost all his time experimenting with his talent. Then he remembers Ruyan and Zhao Shu. He silently swears that one day he will find this adulterous couple and make them experience true despair. The countdown ends. Inside the Myriad Worlds game, every time a player dies, they lose levels and 10% of their lifespan, with a minimum loss of 10 years each time. However, under the Novice Village protection, death only causes level loss and does not reduce lifespan. The Blue Star players are welcomed into the Myriad Worlds game. They are transported to the Divine Dragon Empire, Novice Village number 9527. The system wishes them safety on the journey ahead. Many people are excited. The kind of fantasy worlds they once read about in novels have finally become real. Players quickly begin forming teams, preparing to explore together. Meanwhile, White Knight decides to test his skills first, at the village gate. He summons a small skeleton. It's an F-rank level 1 summon, a weak skeleton that fights for him. The cast time is 3 seconds, the cooldown is 30 seconds, and it costs 20 mana. Its stats scale with the player's spirit attribute. He also has the active skill Scorch, another F-rank level 1 skill. It releases Soul Fire that burns the target, dealing 150% spell power damage over 5 seconds. The range is 30 meters, the cast time is 2 seconds, the cooldown is 5 seconds, and it consumes 10 mana. White Knight feels satisfied. At least he has 1 summon skill and 1 attack skill to start with. In addition, he has Lifelink, a level 1 active skill. It allows him to link with a summoned undead and share health points with it. The skill casts instantly and has a 10-second cooldown. He also has Summon Amplification, an S-rank passive skill with no level. It reduces summoning cast time by 50%, reduces cooldown by 50%, and increases summoned creature attributes by 500%. White Knight finds it amusing that he already has an A-rank skill and an S-rank skill this early. With Lifelink, he can share health with his summons, meaning his own low health might not be such a big problem. Then something unexpected appears. The Book of Death. This item is exclusive to the Death Sovereign class and serves as his unique offhand item. It cannot be dropped, damaged, or traded. The book is currently level 0, and its attributes will unlock after reaching level 1. Its special effects will unlock at level 10. It is described as a book of laws that only White Knight can read. Once the requirements are met, he can learn exclusive Death Sovereign skills from it. Since the book currently has no stats, he assumes it will only become useful after level 10. For now, he decides not to worry about it and focuses on testing his summon. He casts Small Skeleton again, but this time, 2 skeletons appear at once. The system immediately notifies him that the Cataclysm trait has been triggered. Because of the Death Sovereign class effect, all of his skill effects are doubled. However, the second and third class effects are still locked until he reaches a higher level. Even though 2 skeletons appear, they still look fairly weak. At that moment, another player notices him summoning them. Seeing 2 skeletons appear at once, the player assumes White Knight must have at least an A-rank talent. He approaches and suggests they team up. Since he also has an A-rank talent, he believes the two of them could level up much faster together, but White Knight refuses. He says he prefers to grind levels alone. Then he turns and walks away. The man immediately gets offended and shouts after him, telling him to stop pretending to be some powerful summoner when he probably can't even kill a free-range chicken. Mubai arrives in the forest and sees a party struggling to kill a free-range chicken. The tank regrets choosing his class and complains that the stupid chicken is too strong. The frontliner tells him to stop whining and just kill it already. The mage grumbles that the chicken's attack is actually higher than his. Right now, a level 0 player is weaker than a level 1 chicken. One of them gets fed up and says he's going back to the village to look for a lifestyle class. If anyone enjoys fighting something like that, they can deal with it themselves. The free-range chicken is level 1, with 100 over 100 HP, 10 attack, 5 physical defense, and 5 magic defense. White Knight walks past them with his 2 small skeletons, and the party immediately notices him. His summons look pretty strong, so they whisper among themselves that he must have awakened a powerful talent. Naturally, they start feeling jealous. One of their teammates quickly tells them to stop staring and focus on killing the chicken. White Knight calmly says he won't steal their monsters. With his class skill being this ridiculous, killing a chicken would honestly feel like overkill. Just then, he notices the nearby bushes shaking. Suddenly, 2 rabbits jump out. They're red-eyed rabbits, level 2, with 150 over 150 HP, 15 attack, 7 physical defense, and 7 magic defense. These creatures jump straight up to attack a man's most sensitive area. White Knight immediately realizes getting hit by that would hurt a lot. The rabbits rush forward and strike the skeletons, dealing 13 to 15 damage. White Knight feels relieved he doesn't have to fight them himself. Since no one else is around, he decides to summon a few more skeletons and properly test their strength. He tells them to go all out. The skeletons charge forward and slash the red-eyed rabbits with their swords. Soon, one rabbit collapses. White Knight gains an extra 50% level gap bonus and earns +3 experience. The growth speed seems decent. At this rate, reaching level 1 shouldn't take long. He checks his status. His health remains 1 over 1. But thanks to lifelink, one skeleton now has 400 over 400 HP, while the second has 393 over 400 HP. The doubled effects are impressive. By linking with 2 skeletons at the same time, he's no longer someone who can be killed with a single hit. Still, he knows he shouldn't attract too much attention. For now, summoning too many skeletons would be suspicious. 4 should be enough. With that decided, White Knight continues grinding for levels. He sends the 4 small skeletons to fight nearby monsters. Before long, a group of players notices him and starts staring. To them, it looks like White Knight is leveling up just by taking a casual walk. It's way too convenient. One of the players, who is also a summoner, complains that his own summons look nothing like those skeletons. Another guesses that White Knight must have at least an S-rank talent to control 4 summons at once. The curly-haired guy even says White Knight's strength is probably already near the top of Novice Village, number 9527. Just then, the system announces that White Knight has leveled up. His 4 base attributes each gain +1 point, and he receives +1 skill point, along with +15 free attribute points. Finally reaching level 1 makes him feel pretty satisfied. He opens his character panel and thinks about his stats. Since his summon scale with Spirit, he definitely needs to invest there. But with only 1 HP, having more agility could save his life in emergencies. After thinking it over, he adds 4 points to agility and 11 points to spirit. Since his talent can promote things, he decides to upgrade his skills next. He tells the system to promote them directly. The promotion succeeds. His F-rank skill, Summon Small Skeleton, upgrades into the E-rank skill, Summon Skeleton. His F-rank skill, Scorch, also upgrades to E-rank. Meanwhile, his A-rank skill, Lifelink, evolves into an S-rank skill. The new E-rank Summon Skeleton allows him to summon a skeleton fighter with a 3-second cast time, 30-second cooldown, and 40 mana cost, with stats scaling from his spirit. As for Scorch, it now deals 200% spell power damage over 5 seconds, with the same 30-meter range, 2-second cast time, and 5-second cooldown, consuming 20 mana. At the same time, a new passive appears, Death Conscription, an SS rank passive skill with no level. Its effects are powerful. First, summoning skill cast time is reduced by 75%. Second, summoning cooldowns are reduced by 75%. Third, summoned creature attributes increase by 100%. And fourth, the summoning space capacity doubles. White Knight can't help but comment that Lifelink truly deserves its S-rank rating. By passively sharing health with all his summons, his effective health pool skyrockets. Even though he technically still has 1 HP, his shared health now adds up to nearly 9,000 HP. And with Death Conscription, he can summon up to 20 skeleton soldiers. At this point, he no longer needs to stay low-key. He plans to open his summoning space and grind levels aggressively. Since he upgraded his skills, there's no reason not to upgrade his exclusive equipment too. The system announces that the promotion is successful. His exclusive item Book of Death evolves into the Death Scripture. This item remains exclusive to White Knight. It cannot be dropped, damaged, or traded, and can be summoned or dismissed freely. At level 1, it follows the character and provides plus 15 spell power, with additional special effects unlocking at level 10. Still, White Knight feels slightly disappointed. The only bonus for now is 15 spell power, so he decides to focus on leveling until he reaches level 10. With that settled, the real grinding begins. He sends more skeletons charging forward. After all, the more the merrier. This time, their target is a fox monster. White Knight tries summoning all 20 skeletons. Thanks to Death Conscription reducing cooldown by 75%, combined with the Cataclysm trait, each skeleton now takes only about 2 seconds to summon. The skeletons continue hunting level 3 Razorclaw cat demons, gaining a 50% level gap bonus and plus 5 experience each time. White Knight enjoys how fast his levels are rising. Soon, the system announces that he has reached level 2. His 4 attributes increase by plus 1 point each, and he also receives plus 1 skill point and plus 15 free attribute points. He simply orders his skeletons to keep grinding. About half an hour later, he arrives at a strange boulder that looks like a portal. This place is the entrance to the first dungeon. Mist Forest. The Mist Forest is known to contain valuable treasures, but at the same time, it's also filled with danger. The system asks if he's sure he wants to challenge the dungeon alone. White Knight confirms without hesitation. After all, he has plenty of lackeys following behind him. Next, he's asked to select the dungeon difficulty. The options appear: easy, normal, hard, nightmare, and hell. Without thinking twice, he chooses Hell difficulty. And then he steps through the portal. White Knight enters the Hell difficulty Mist Forest. The fog is so thick that he can barely see the path ahead. He then ordered his army to find a path and kill monsters. Fortunately, he can control his summons freely within a 100-meter range. Otherwise, he'd probably worry about his skeletons getting lost in the fog. Soon, one of his skeletons encounters a monster, a mystery demon, an elite level 8 creature with 3,600 over 3,600 HP, 74 attack, 60 physical defense, 40 magic defense, and the skill Entangle. White Knight feels excited the moment he sees it. Finally, a real target. He immediately orders his minions to attack together. The mystery demon responds by casting Entangle. Thick vines wrap around one skeleton and rip its arms apart. White Knight notes that an elite monster's attack power is definitely no joke. But even so, it can't withstand the sheer number of his minions. He orders all the skeletons to focus their attacks on it. Soon the system announces the result. After killing the level 8 elite Mist Tree Demon, he gains a 50% level gap bonus and earns plus 60 experience. The Mist Forest is originally a level 5 dungeon, but the Hell difficulty raises monster levels by 3 and turns them all into elite monsters. The experience gain is indeed impressive. Just then, White Knight senses movement behind him. A snake suddenly swings down from a branch. He quickly jumps aside to dodge its attack. The creature is a Mist Tree Python, another level 8 elite monster with 3,000 over 3,000 HP, 108 attack, 52 physical defense, 30 magic defense, and the skill Strangle. These pythons specialize in wrapping their prey tightly. White Knight lifts his staff and fires a burst of blue flame at it. The attack deals 98 and 101 damage. Right after that, his skeletons rush in. The Mystery Python quickly falls. The system announces that he has defeated a level 8 elite Mystery Python, earning another 50% level gap bonus and plus 60 experience. Even though White Knight's spirit attribute is already 3 times higher than that of a normal necromancer, his spells still don't hit as hard as his skeleton army. The monster drops loot, such as a tree python belt, a level 5 leather armor piece. It has black iron grade durability 30 over 30, plus 9 armor, and plus 2 constitution. When worn, it looks like a giant python wrapped around the waist. White Knight sighs slightly. Too bad it's leather armor, which he can't use. Still, it's worth keeping since it can be sold later for money. With that done, he continues moving forward with his skeleton army. Monsters begin lurking in the surrounding fog, which means, for White Knight, it's harvest time. His minions group together and attack the Mystery Demons and Mystery Pythons at the same time. It quickly turns into organized chaos. Soon, the system announces that White Knight has reached level 5. His 4 attributes each gain plus 1 point, and he receives plus 1 skill point along with plus 15 free attribute points. White Knight levels up once again. During the grind, he obtains several drops: black iron equipment, a wooden wand, a snake fang short dagger, tree python leather armor, and 2 E-rank skill books, Entangle and Strangle. The wand is somewhat usable for now, but the rest isn't very helpful. He decides he'll upgrade them later and sell them. Looking at his status panel, it now shows he is level 5 with a Necromancer class. His attributes are 51 agility, 108 spirit, 1 over 1 HP, 6,480 over 6,480 mana, and 409 spell power. His exclusive forbidden trait is Promotion. His class skills include Summon Skeleton, E rank, Scorch, E rank, Life Sharing, S rank, and Death Conscription, SS rank. His summon space is 10 over 20. His weapon is the wooden wand, his class exclusive item is the Death Scripture, and his remaining lifespan is still less than 1 year. The wand's stats are pretty weak though, so he'll need a better weapon eventually. Then he notices something interesting. His Death Scripture has also leveled up. The Death Scripture is a class exclusive item that cannot be dropped, damaged, or traded. Its base attributes now give plus 75 spell power, plus 25 to all attributes, and plus 100% damage against undead creatures. Even his summoned skeletons receive the buff. Additional special effects will unlock once the item reaches level 10. The book is described as a book of rules, something only he can read. Once he meets certain conditions, he can learn exclusive Death Sovereign skills from it. White Knight feels quite satisfied with this reward. He calls all his skeletons together and prepares them for the next fight. With his current equipment and power, he believes he's ready to challenge the boss. So they move deeper into the dungeon. Soon, they encounter 1 silver grade boss along with 2 reinforced elite guards. White Knight can't help but think that hell difficulty really lives up to its name. The boss is the Mist Tree Python King, a silver grade level 8 monster with 88,000 over 88,000 HP, 327 attack, 136 physical defense, 98 magic defense, and several skills: Strangle, Devour, Venom Spray, and Earthshaker. Beside it stand the Mist Tree Python Guards, reinforced elite monsters at level 8, each with 8,350 HP, 198 attack, 72 physical defense, 60 magic defense, and the skill Strangle. White Knight studies the situation carefully. The boss alone has over 80,000 HP, and it's protected by 2 guards. For a moment, he wonders if his skeleton army can actually handle it. But in the end, he decides to just try and see what happens. So he orders his minions to charge. His minions charge forward. But the Mist Tree Python King suddenly opens its mouth and devours one of the skeletons. White Knight immediately realizes the boss's attack power is truly terrifying. Still, even if its damage is high, he believes it won't be able to handle his skeleton C tactic. Soon, 2 more skeletons appear. He orders his minions to slash it aggressively. The skeleton army quickly deals with the Mist Tree Python Guards. Each guard killed gives him a 50% level gap bonus and plus 180 experience points. With the guards gone, he commands all his little brothers to focus fire on the boss. The skeletons strike the Python King on the head, which only makes it even angrier. White Knight feels a bit disappointed when he sees his own damage numbers. Compared to his skeletons, his attacks look almost embarrassing. The boss turns its attention toward the skeletons. It swallows another skeleton whole, killing it instantly. Then it thrashes its massive body, tearing several skeletons apart. White Knight senses something dangerous. It looks like the boss is about to use one of its major skills. Suddenly, the Python King spits out a green poisonous mist. White Knight is startled. He didn't expect the boss to actually target him directly. The mist rushes toward him and covers his vision, but White Knight takes the hit head-on. Thanks to life sharing, his combined health pool is now well over 100,000 HP. Compared to that, this damage is nothing. Then he counterattacks. Blue flames ignite in his hands as he charges forward. He continuously casts Scorch, while his skeleton army keeps slashing the boss from all sides. Under the constant damage, the massive creature finally collapses. The system announces that he has defeated the level 8 silver grade boss, Mystery Python King. He receives a 50% experience bonus and earns plus 14,400 experience points. White Knight is satisfied with how smoothly the fight went. Then another announcement appears. The system congratulates him for becoming the first player in Novice Village number 9,527 to solo kill a boss. As a reward, he receives 1 basic life soul stone and 1 gold coin. Another notification follows immediately. He is also the first player in Novice Village number 9,527 to solo kill a silver grade boss. This achievement grants him an additional reward of 5 basic life soul stones and 5 gold coins. The system made an announcement in Novice Village number 9527. It declared that White Knight had become the first player to solo kill a silver grade boss. The notice encouraged all players to learn from him so they could earn rich rewards as well. The players could hardly believe it. Some were also curious about who White Knight was and what kind of freakish talent he had awakened. Most of them assumed his talent had to be S rank or even SS rank. Otherwise, there was no way someone could solo kill a silver grade boss this early. One player was furious about the huge gap between them. Another complained that the Myriad Worlds game was terribly unbalanced. They said they could barely defeat small mobs, yet this guy was already solo killing bosses. Someone else sighed and said he never expected to become cannon fodder after transmigrating. From another party, a woman had just learned that solo killing a boss triggers a system announcement. If she had known earlier, she would have let Maple Leaf solo kill that black iron grade boss himself. Her teammate replied that it didn't matter since there would be plenty of chances later. The man who had just answered her was Maple Leaf Xiaoxiao. He told her that White Knight was stronger than him. He admitted that a silver grade boss was still too much for him right now. The woman named Wealth World pointed out that he had already awakened an S-rank talent, yet this White Knight was somehow still stronger than him. That made her wonder if White Knight's talent might actually be SS rank. Maple Leaf answered that it was very likely. Awei, their tank, suggested inviting White Knight to join their team. Cotton Candy, a mage who looked like a small kid, knew how terrifying an SS rank talent could be. She wondered if White Knight would even agree to join them. Wealthy World confidently said she would try anyway. After all, there wasn't a man yet who had refused her invitation. Meanwhile, White Knight suddenly received a flood of friend requests. He had no idea why so many had appeared out of nowhere. He didn't have time to deal with them all, so he decided to reject them. Then he took out a basic life soul stone, a special item. After absorbing it, it increases lifespan by 30 days. However, if he dies, he will lose 1/10 of that lifespan, with a minimum loss of 3 days. He was surprised to see an item that could actually increase lifespan. He decided to promote those stones first. After doing so, he obtained an intermediate life soul stone. This special item increases lifespan by 120 days upon absorption. If he dies, he will lose 1/10 of that lifespan, with a minimum loss of 12 days. He was glad the promotion worked. 6 intermediate stones would equal almost 2 years of life. Getting that much lifespan for free felt strangely addictive. Now he wanted to collect even more life soul stones. The 2 skill books he received were not useful for him. As for the equipment pieces, only the poison ring was somewhat helpful, so he decided to promote it. The promotion succeeded, and he obtained a venomous ring. It was gold grade with 100/100 durability, granting plus 30 spell power, plus 10 agility, and plus 10 spirit. Magic skills now had a chance to inflict 150 poison damage, triggering at most once every 10 seconds. He liked that it had both magic and poison attributes. If his attack wasn't enough, the poison would finish the job. He then noticed how many skeletons had died just fighting a beginner boss. That made him realize something important. His skeletons simply weren't strong enough. Now that he had some gold coins, he considered sublimating the summon skeleton skill to upgrade it further. He chose to upgrade it. The options were Promote, Tier 1, Sublimate, Tier 2, and Cataclysm, Tier 3. Without hesitation, he chose Sublimate. The system informed him that it would cost 5 gold coins to overwrite the previous promotion effects and sublimate the skill. It was painfully expensive, but he knew he could earn more gold later. So he went ahead with the sublimation. The system then announced that his F-rank skill, Summon Small Skeleton, had successfully evolved into the D-rank skill, Summon Skeleton Soldier. This D-rank level 6 active skill allowed him to summon either a skeleton warrior or a skeleton archer to fight for him. The cast time was 3 seconds, the cooldown was 30 seconds, and it cost 200 mana. The skeleton's stats would scale based on the player's spirit attribute. He was very pleased with the skeleton archer. Those 5 gold coins suddenly felt like a great investment, so he summoned them right away. The skeleton archer had 637 strength, 637 constitution, 637 agility, and 6,370 health points, with 319 physical defense. It possessed a skill called Double Shot. At rank E level 6, it could instantly fire 2 arrows, striking the target twice. Each arrow dealt 90% physical damage, with a 30-second cooldown. Because it had converted into the archer class, its agility bonus increased significantly. Meanwhile, the skeleton warrior had 637 strength, constitution, and agility, with 956 attack and 319 physical defense. It possessed the skill Heavy Strike. At rank E level 6, it swung its weapon to deliver a heavy blow, dealing 175% physical damage, also with a 30-second cooldown. As a warrior class, its strength bonus increased significantly. Now he could finally say his summons had decent stats. Feeling satisfied, he ordered his minions to continue exploring for him. They scattered throughout the forest. Soon, an elite rank level 8 goblin appeared. It had 2,800 over 2,800 health points, 96 attack, 58 physical defense, 45 magic defense, and a skill called Throw. He immediately ordered the ranged units to focus fire on one target first. Arrows flew straight into the goblin's face. The monster dropped instantly. White Knight received an extra 50% experience bonus, along with plus 60 experience points. He quickly noticed how much faster his farming speed had become. It was clear now. He needed to move to a higher level area if he wanted better gains. Meanwhile, back in the village, players were busy recruiting members for their own teams. Someone suddenly approached them. This man announced that he was preparing to establish the Hegemony Guild. He invited them to join him so they could explore the Myriad Worlds game together. The players immediately felt offended. The guy had just entered the game, yet he was already recruiting people to work for him, even though he wasn't famous at all. The man calmly explained that he possessed an S-rank talent called Born Leader. This talent allowed him to establish a guild for free. Guild members would receive a 20% experience bonus, 20% monster drop bonus, and 20% attack and spell power bonus. And the stronger the guild became overall, the greater the buffs would grow. Hearing that, many players became intrigued. The ability sounded incredibly powerful. Several of them quickly said they wanted to join. The man told them not to rush and to join one by one. But their conversation was suddenly interrupted when they received a server-wide pinned message. The sender was Wealthy World, and the message was directed at White Knight. She asked him to accept her friend request because she had an important matter to discuss. When the players saw this, they immediately started complaining. One of them grumbled that he had worked his butt off killing dozens of monsters and still didn't even have 100 copper coins. Yet this spendthrift casually spent 10 gold coins just to send a message. Everyone became curious about who this person was. After all, sending a server-wide pinned message cost 10 gold coins, which was an insane amount right now. The commotion quickly spread through the village. Some wondered if Wealthy World was truly that rich. The man who planned to establish the guild also started wondering where she got so many gold coins. At the same time, he became curious about White Knight. The name alone made him want to see how strong this person really was. White Knight saw the message. Since Wealthy World had spent 10 gold coins just to find him, it was obvious she had serious money. So he decided to meet her. After they became friends, Wealthy World immediately invited him to join her team. She promised to cover all his equipment and skills, plus give him 100 gold coins up front. Getting 100 gold coins right away sounded incredibly generous. White Knight couldn't help wondering how she had become this rich when everyone had only just left the novice village. So he asked her why he should trust her. She replied that money was just a number to her. As long as he signed a contract to join her team, there would be plenty of money waiting for him. And if he still didn't believe her, he could simply look at her SSS rank exclusive skill, God of Wealth. This talent had 3 effects. The first was Money Tree, which allowed her to shake a money tree once a day and randomly receive 1 to 999 gold coins, with a chance to obtain special treasures as well. The second effect was Wealth Rolls In, which increased the total currency she carried by 1% every day. The third was Income Only, No Outgo, meaning she would not drop any gold coins or items when she died. After hearing all that, White Knight realized that this God of Wealth talent was simply too heaven-defying. White Knight realized that with this God of Wealth talent, making money would be as easy as lying down and printing gold. But teaming up sounded troublesome to him, and it would also make it easier for others to discover his secrets. He decided to forget about it. In the early stages, leveling alone felt much safer, so he replied that he preferred to act alone. Wealthy World was offended that he actually dared to refuse her. Maple Leaf Xiaoxiao asked her if White Knight had refused to join them. She answered that White Knight preferred to act alone. Ah Wei suggested they forget about him for now, since they could just grind monsters themselves. Cotton Candy replied that it might be possible, but without good equipment, their grinding speed would be much slower. But then Wealthy World noticed that White Knight had sent another message. White Knight proposed a trade. She asked for more details, and he explained that he had some unused equipment and skill books that her team could probably use, and he was willing to sell them. She asked how much he wanted because she was planning to buy everything. White Knight replied that the value would be greater than she could imagine. He said he would notify her when he finished his current business. She simply replied that she would wait for him. Then she told Maple Leaf that he would soon have top-tier equipment. Ah Wei was happy to hear that because powerful gear would greatly increase their grinding speed. Their party soon encountered a wild boar leader. It was a level 5 bronze grade boss with 23,800/23,800 health points, 205 attack, 81 physical defense, 62 magic defense, and skills like Tear, Barbaric Charge, and Wild Trample. Wealthy World asked Maple Leaf if he was confident he could solo kill it. He replied that it wouldn't be a problem. She told everyone to hand their life recovery potions to Maple Leaf. Then she instructed him to leave the party. Ah Wei was ordered to stand guard and make sure no one interfered with Maple Leaf. Their goal was simple: secure the system announcement. After that, they told Maple Leaf to go. He moved in. The wild boar leader attacked, dealing -986 damage. Maple Leaf slipped behind it and launched his attack. The wild boar leader swung its spiked back toward him. He said the monster was pretty strong, but it wasn't fast enough. Wealthy World commented that Maple Leaf had plenty of combat experience, so solo killing the boss shouldn't be a problem. Meanwhile, White Knight killed a level 8 silver grade boss, the Goblin Leader, earning an extra 50% experience bonus and plus 14,400 experience points. Having such a large group of minions made things incredibly convenient. He could move through the mist forest almost without resistance. The system notified him that his level increased to 6, giving him plus 1 point to all 4 attributes and plus 15 free attribute points. The only thing he could complain about was how annoying it was to pick up all the loot. One of the items he picked up reinforced Bone Shield, but with life diversion, that skill was useless to him. The Mist Cloak had the effect of lowering aggro, but it was honestly just too ugly to wear. It was level 5, gold grade, with 100/100 durability, plus 28 physical defense, plus 20 magic defense, plus 10 constitution, and plus 10 spirit. After equipping it, it lowered the user's presence slightly, reducing the chance of attracting monster aggro. Another item caught his attention, an emblem with excellent attributes. It was level 5, gold grade, with 100/100 durability. It increased health by plus 200, mana by plus 400, and spell critical chance by plus 5%. Whenever his spell landed a critical hit, he would gain a buff that increased spirit by plus 20 for 10 seconds, though the effect could not stack. He equipped it immediately. Suddenly, a skeleton came running toward him. It looked badly injured and had lost a large amount of health. He wondered how this had caused the king's territory to appear. The system suddenly sent another notification. A large number of skeleton soldiers had caused the Goblin King to recall long-buried memories, triggering a hidden plot. The Goblin King had fallen into a state of madness, increasing all attributes by 50%. The Mist Forest exit had been sealed, and the only way to leave the dungeon was by killing the Goblin King. To trigger the hidden plot completion, he had to kill the Goblin King within 2 minutes. White Knight quickly summoned more skeletons to prepare for the battle. The Goblin King roared in anger that someone dared to invade his territory. It declared that it would smash his rotten bones into pieces. The Goblin King, Regu, was now in a special state where all attributes increased by 50%. It was a level 8 gold grade boss with 286,218 over 327,000 health points, 843 attack, 312 physical defense, and 270 magic defense. Its skills included Thunderstrike, Trample, Heroic Leap, Summon Goblin Warrior, and Berserk. Regu's long-buried painful memories had driven him into madness. The system note added that even if White Knight died and revived, Regu would continue hunting him. White Knight knew that killing it within 2 minutes would be difficult, especially with over 300,000 health points. The boss had massive health, but White Knight knew something important. It still couldn't handle the sheer number of his minions, so there was no reason he couldn't defeat it. The Goblin King charged toward the group of filthy, rotting bones. It snarled that just smelling their scent made it want to vomit. White Knight admitted that the boss dealt serious damage. A normal level 5 player would have been instantly killed. Too bad for the boss, it had run into him. The Goblin King growled in annoyance when it realized he had tried to sneak up on it. Meanwhile, the skeleton archer continued firing arrows and dealing steady damage. The Goblin King finally decided to target the archer, and that was exactly what White Knight wanted. The Goblin King then summoned the warriors of its race, ordering them to smash those filthy bones into fragments for their king. Goblin warriors began pouring out of a portal. They were also in a madness state, increasing all their attributes by 50%. Each one had 13,500/13,500 health points, 279 attack, 105 physical defense, and 93 magic defense. Their skill was Powerful Strike. White Knight was slightly taken aback. He could already tell that this fight was about to get tricky. The Goblin King grew furious at this necromancer. White Knight had already wiped out many of his clansmen in the Mist Forest, and the king had no intention of letting him escape. It roared and ordered its warriors to crush him and his minions. The Goblin King slammed its weapon into the ground, creating a powerful shockwave. Fortunately, White Knight managed to step aside just in time. Even so, he complained that the hit still hurt quite a bit. Luckily, he was sharing health with his minions, so the damage wasn't too dangerous. He quickly summoned more skeletons and ordered them to deal with the smaller goblins first. The skeletons rushed forward and began cutting down several goblin warriors. Then he commanded the archer skeletons to rain arrows down on them. The Goblin King watched as more of his army fell, but it refused to be defeated. It roared that it would never become a slave again. At that moment, Goblin King Reggie entered a berserk state. His attack power increased by 50%, his attack speed increased by 50%, but both his physical and magic defenses dropped by 50%. White Knight simply looked at the raging boss and called it a noob. Suddenly, a system announcement rang out. Maple Leaf Xiaoxiao had become the first player to solo kill a bronze-grade boss. White Knight realized the first kill announcement had been stolen, but he didn't let it bother him. He wasn't going to lose sight of the big reward over a small title. Instead, he ordered all his skeletons to charge at once. Their overwhelming numbers finally brought the Goblin King down. The system announced that he had killed the level 8 gold-grade boss, Goblin King Reggie, granting an extra 50% experience bonus and plus 43,200 experience points. With that, he reached level 7, gaining +1 to all 4 attributes, +1 skill point, and +15 free attribute points. He also became the first player in Novice Village number 9527 to solo kill a gold-grade boss. As a reward, he received 12 basic life soul stones and 12 gold coins. He looked around for any monster drops, but strangely, there was nothing. Meanwhile, a man wearing full armor had just obtained a treasure that increased his lifespan. His guild members quickly flattered him, saying he was the #1 expert in Novice Village number 9527. Suddenly, a system announcement appeared. Maple Leaf Xiaoxiao had become the first player to solo kill a bronze-grade boss. One of his guild members immediately said Maple Leaf must have just gotten lucky. The armored man declared that he would find a gold-grade boss himself to prove who the real expert was. Right then, another announcement appeared, this time saying that White Knight had become the first player to solo kill a gold-grade boss. The man in the full armor suit frowned and wondered if White Knight had awakened an SSS rank talent. On the other side of the forest, Maple Leaf Xiaoxiao commented that White Knight was truly terrifying. Wealthy World told him it was fine. The Myriad Worlds game had only just begun, so there was still plenty of time to catch up. Maple Leaf Xiaoxiao then told the group that they should go check out the first dungeon now. Back to White Knight, the system notified him that because he killed Goblin King Reggie within 2 minutes, he had successfully triggered the hidden plot called Reggie's Nightmare, and the Mist Forest dungeon difficulty had increased to disaster grade, which was even higher than Hell difficulty. Suddenly, a thick mist flowed out of the Goblin King's mouth. White Knight frowned, wondering what was going on. The mist began showing him visions. He saw goblins living their lives, but then they met a tragic fate. They were imprisoned and burned alive. After that, one of the skeletons he had summoned appeared in the vision. Apparently, that skeleton had once been a goblin when it was alive. Then he noticed something strange. The Goblin King's body began glowing brightly, and it suddenly transformed into Skeleton King Reggie. It had entered an insane state, with all attributes increased by 50%. It was now level 10 and ranked as a dark gold grade boss. It had 1,800,000/1,800,000 health points, 4,215 attack power, 780 physical defense, and 675 magic defense. Its skills included Summon Skeleton Warrior, Summon Skeleton Archer, Summon Skeleton Mage, Aura of the Dead, Thunder Heavy Strike, Trample of the Dead, Leap of the Dead, Berserk, and Death Aura Surround. According to the system, this creature was one of the most successful works of necromancers in ancient times. Skeleton King Reggie realized that in the end, he still couldn't escape the fate of becoming undead. He called upon his warriors to fight for him. Their souls rose from their bodies and merged together to form his blade. White Knight stared at the terrifying monster and couldn't believe that something like this could appear in a novice village. It unleashed lightning into the sky. Along with it, his summons appeared, starting with a level 10 skeleton warrior. It had 60,000/60,000 health points, 780 attack power, 264 physical defense, and 216 magic defense, along with a level 10 heavy strike skill. This was a heroic warrior boosted by the aura of the dead, increasing all its attributes by 20%. Another summon was a level 10 skeleton mage with 24,000 over 24,000 health points, 840 spell power, 100 physical defense, and 240 magic defense, and a level 10 fireball skill. This powerful mage was also boosted by the aura of the dead, raising all its attributes by 20%. There was also a level 10 skeleton archer with 36,000/36,000 health points, 624 attack power, 160 physical defense, 120 magic defense, and a level 10 double shot skill. This precise archer was likewise boosted by the aura of the dead, increasing all its attributes by 20%. The combat power of those 6 summons was already catching up to the strength of his 20 minions. The Skeleton King clearly wanted all his enemies to join the undead army. White Knight felt overwhelmed. The enemy's attack power was way too high, and he honestly had no clear idea how he was supposed to win this fight. The system suddenly gave him a warning. The hidden plot, Reggie's Nightmare, had officially begun, and Novice Village Protection was now disabled. If he died, he would lose 10% of his lifespan, with a minimum loss of 10 years. Hearing that nearly made his heart stop. Even if he absorbed all his life soul stones, it still wouldn't be enough to cover a single deduction. For a moment, he worried that his journey in the Myriad Worlds game might end right here. Skeleton King Reggie then unleashed Thunder Heavy Strike, smashing several of his minions in one blow. White Knight was also caught in the attack. Gritting his teeth, he ordered the archer skeletons to aim at those scums and focus their fire. White Knight realized that with his current mana, he could only summon 20 skeleton warriors. He knew that wouldn't be enough. The enemy's defense was simply too high. He needed to upgrade the skill to another tier. There was no safe option left. He decided to risk everything. First, he would eat the stones and see how much lifespan the Cataclysm promotion would cost. He successfully absorbed several intermediate life soul stones, bringing his lifespan to 6 years. The system notified him that once the skill underwent Cataclysm to C rank, 3 branches would appear: Summon Skeleton Warrior, Summon Skeleton Archer, and Summon Skeleton Mage. He needed to choose which path to evolve. Without hesitation, he chose Skeleton Warrior, since it was the safest option due to their massive health pool. The system notified him that he had lost 5 years of lifespan. His F-rank skill, Summon Small Skeleton, had successfully mutated into the C-rank skill, Summon Skeleton Warrior. The skill was now C-rank, level 8, with a 3-second cast time, 30-second cooldown, and 300 mana cost. The Skeleton Warrior's stats scaled with the player's spirit attribute. The mutation effect was incredible. The Skeleton Warrior's maximum health increased to 500%, while attack power increased to 100%. The bonus was so outrageous for a C-rank skill that White Knight couldn't help wondering if the system had lost its mind. He immediately summoned more Skeleton Warriors to match Skeleton King Reggie. Each Skeleton Warrior had 930 Strength, 930 Constitution, 930 Agility, and 69,750/69,750 health points with 3,720 attack power and 930 physical defense. Its skill. Heavy Strike was at level 8, allowing it to swing its weapon and deal 185% physical damage with a 30-second cooldown. The mutation bonuses pushed it even further. Maximum health increased by 500%, attack power increased by 100%, and all attribute bonuses were significantly boosted. The Skeleton Warriors charged and attacked Skeleton King Reggie, while Reggie commanded its undead subordinates to hold the line. White Knight's skeleton slowly began dealing steady damage. He continued summoning more warriors. Then the Skeleton King entered a berserk state. Its attack power increased by 50%, attack speed increased by 50%, but both its defenses dropped by 50%. Seeing their defenses drop, White Knight smirked. In his eyes, they had just sped up their own deaths. He immediately ordered all his summons to focus fire in one final wave. The Skeleton King Reggie's health bar dropped rapidly. Soon after, the system notification appeared. White Knight had killed it. He gained an additional 50% experience bonus and plus 270,000 experience points. With that, he reached level 8, gaining +1 to all 4 attributes, +1 skill point, and plus 15 free attribute points. But with 270,000 experience, he knew it wouldn't stop there. The system soon confirmed that he had reached level 9. Another notification appeared. He had become the first player in Novice Village number 9527 to solo kill a dark gold grade boss. His reward was 40 intermediate life soul stones and 60 gold coins. The achievement was also broadcast to the entire village. He then received another system message congratulating him for achieving the first clear of the Mist Forest in Novice Village number 9527. His reward was 5 random level 1 attribute gems and 5 gold coins. Just from this round of Cataclysm upgrades, he had already burned through over 13 years of lifespan, but the rewards kept coming. Since he had also completed the first clear of the Hell difficulty Mist Forest, he received 20 intermediate life soul stones and 20 gold coins. Still, White Knight frowned, because technically, he had cleared a disaster-level dungeon, not just Hell difficulty. At the Mist Forest entrance, the man in full armor continued recruiting players. Several people nearby showed interest in joining his group. Soon, everyone's attention shifted to another group walking out of the forest, all wearing full sets of equipment. Since the leader was Wealthy World, the sight wasn't too surprising. Everyone already knew her gear must have cost a fortune. Still, they couldn't help wondering just how rich she really was. The man who had been recruiting earlier approached them and said he had heard about their team. They politely replied that they were far inferior to this man, Guildmaster Hongtu. Hearing that made Hongtu laugh proudly. Since everyone was already gathered there, he suggested making a bet. Wealthy World raised an eyebrow and asked what he wanted to bet on. Hongtu proposed that they bet on who could achieve the first clear of the Mist Forest. Wealthy World asked what the stakes would be. Hongtu replied that his talent and her financial power were a perfect match. If he won the first clear, he wanted their team to join his hegemony guild. She then asked what they would gain if they cleared it first. Hongtu answered that in the future, the hegemony guild would help them accomplish one request with their full strength. Wealthy World immediately bargained, saying that one favor wasn't enough. She wanted 3 instead. After a brief pause, the deal was agreed upon. But suddenly a system announcement appeared stating that White Knight had already taken the first clear of the Mist Forest. Everyone stood there in shock. Guildmaster Hongtu's expression darkened. This White Knight had completely ruined their bet and made them look foolish. He told Wealthy World that since the normal difficulty first clear was already gone, they might as well aim for hard mode instead. But then several more announcements appeared one after another. First, White Knight had taken the first clear of Hell difficulty in the Mist Forest. Second, he had become the first player to solo kill a dark gold grade boss. And third, a Blue Star Zone announcement congratulated the Divine Dragon Empire player White Knight for becoming the first player in the entire Blue Star Zone to solo clear a disaster-level dungeon. Guildmaster Hongtu could only shout that this was absolutely outrageous. Without another word, they stepped into the portal. Cotton Candy asked Wealthy World if they weren't going in as well. Wealthy World calmly replied that there was no need to rush anymore, since the first clear was already gone anyway. She said she wanted to wait a little longer. Meanwhile, in the Divine Dragon Empire's Novice Village number 8888 inside the Hell-level Mist Forest, a man with long black hair was fighting the Goblin King. He calmly deflected the monster's attacks with his sword. This man was 3-foot Sword Edge. He had also received the system notifications, which made him curious about what kind of talent White Knight had awakened. After all, he had been fighting the Goblin King for quite a while already, yet he still hadn't managed to bring it down. At the same time, in Divine Dragon Empire Novice Village number 9526, a blonde man commented that the name White Knight sounded familiar. The woman beside him asked why he thought that. The woman was Ruyan, and the man asked her if it might be someone who had courted her before. She asked him if he was planning to give her away again. Zhao Shu pulled her into a hug and told her not to feel wronged. He pointed out that when she followed Mu Bai back then, she had still enjoyed several years of glory and wealth. If the Myriad Worlds game hadn't appeared, he said he would have already reached the peak of life by now. Ruyan replied that the name White Knight reminded her of someone. Then she suddenly remembered a player who used that same name when he played games in the past. Zhao Shu immediately asked who it was. She answered that it was Sumu Bai. Shu quickly shook his head and said that was impossible. Sumu Bai should already be dead. After all, he had personally pulled the plug himself. Besides, Mubai couldn't possibly be the only person who would choose a name like White Knight. He dismissed the idea as nothing more than a coincidence. He even added that if it really was that kid, it would actually make things easier. Zhao Shu knew that Mubai had always liked Ruyan, so she could simply seduce him again, and everything would fall into place. Ruyan blushed slightly, but deep down she was completely confident in her charm, and honestly, she didn't really care who White Knight was. The system congratulated White Knight for becoming the first player in the Blue Star Zone to solo clear a disaster-level dungeon. His rewards were a Class S rank skill book and 1 epic-grade piece of equipment. Just as he expected from a disaster-level dungeon, the rewards were incredibly generous. Now, even with only 1 drop of blood, he could definitely summon a full blood bank. He pressed the backpack button on the screen. And that activated Siphon, a skill that lets him absorb death energy from corpses and store it. A single siphon can target up to 5 bodies. The cooldown is 30 seconds. It costs nothing to use. The maximum range is 50 meters, and his stored death energy currently sits at 0/80. The feedback skill instantly restores his own health or mana, or it can be used to strengthen one of his summons. The cooldown is 30 seconds. It consumes 1 to 80 death energy. 1 death energy restores 100 health or 100 mana. 1 death energy can also boost a target's main attribute by 0.5% for 60 seconds. Now, he would never have to worry about mana consumption ever again. At the moment, he could only choose the free promotion option. The system confirmed the cost-free promotion of the skill book Death Siphon Feedback to Tier 1. He confirmed it and learned the new skill, Death Siphon Feedback. He tested it on the enemy and successfully siphoned 320 death energy from the corpse of the Dark Gold boss, Skeleton King Reiji. But the system soon notified him that his stored death energy had already reached the limit. If he wanted to siphon more, he would need to consume some of it first. He didn't expect the amount to be that high. He guessed it was because the boss had originally been an undead creature, so the death energy inside it was much richer. He also received an item called the Whisperer of the Dead Robe, a top cloth armor. It works from level 10 to level 60, scaling with the player's level. The item upgrades every 5 levels, with a maximum upgrade at level 60. It is an epic grade item. He suspected this might be the first epic grade equipment in the entire Blue Star Zone. Unfortunately, it still needed appraisal, and appraisal fees were never cheap. For now, he decided to keep it. He suddenly realized something. He rummaged through the remains of Skeleton King Reiji to see what else had dropped. His plan was to pack everything and send it to Wealthy World later. After all, he had technically killed the boss twice, so he expected it to drop some good stuff. Suddenly, a massive explosion of loot appeared. He obtained 10 gold coins, 38 silver coins, a +10 attribute gem, a +3 critical gem, and 5 gold grade equipment pieces. There was also a dark gold grade item called the Necklace of the Dead, along with Boots of the Shadow, heavy bone armor, and a giant bone sword. In addition, he received several C-rank skill books such as Summon Skeleton Champion, Summon Skeleton Archer, and Summon Skeleton Mage. There were also B-rank skill books like Aura of the Dead and Thunder Heavy Strike. On top of that, several dark gold grade materials dropped, including 10 Death Energy Bones, 10 Soul Remnants, and Hale's Crystal Ball. Since he already possessed the 3 skill books, Summon Skeleton Champion, Summon Skeleton Archer, and Summon Skeleton Mage, the system asked if he wanted to fuse the 3 into a new skill called Summon Advanced Skeleton. He didn't even know that skill books could be fused like this. He went ahead and fused them, learning the new skill Summon Advanced Skeleton. The skill was C rank, level 1. With it, he could summon a Skeleton Champion, Skeleton Archer, or Skeleton Mage to fight for him. The cast time was 3 seconds, the cooldown was 30 seconds, and it cost 300 mana. The skill also had special traits. The first trait increased the Skeleton Champion's health by 500% and its attack by 100%. The second and third traits were still locked. He guessed those were for the Skeleton Archer and Skeleton Mage, meaning the skill would need another promotion to unlock them. The system then prompted him to select a promotion tier for the Summon Advanced Skeleton skill. A normal promotion cost nothing. Sublimation into the A-rank skill. Summon Elite Skeleton would cost 10,000 gold coins, while the final Cataclysm evolution into the S-rank skill, Summon Skeleton Legion, would cost 1,000 years of lifespan. White Knight chose the direct promotion. Just like that, his C-rank Summon Advanced Skeleton skill was promoted to B-rank, level 1. A blue orb suddenly appeared, and he wondered what it was. The system asked if he wanted to accept the quest, Hale's Legacy. It was an epic grade quest with extreme difficulty, and the system advised him to consider it carefully. If he accepted, Hale's crystal ball would have part of its seal lifted and temporarily become his equipment. If he refused, the crystal ball would break through the void and leave, searching for the next destined person. He wondered if this was the harvest from the hidden plot. He was also curious if the quest item itself could be promoted, so he tried it. The system then asked if he wanted to accept Dylan's Sorrow. It was a legendary grade quest with difficulty described as beyond imagination, and the system again warned him to think carefully. If he accepted, Dylan's crystal ball would partially unseal and temporarily become his equipment. If he refused, it would also break through the void and leave to find the next destined person. He chose to accept. Since his level was still too low, the system told him to reach level 30 within 1 month to begin the first phase of the quest. If he failed to start the quest in time, he would lose Dylan's crystal ball. Dylan's crystal ball would reveal its true name after being fully unsealed. It starts at level 0 and can reach a maximum of level 200. It is a legendary grade item with durability 1000 over 1000. Its basic attributes were already impressive, plus 50 spell power, plus 20 to all attributes, plus 1000 health, and plus 2000 mana. Its effects were also powerful. The first effect increased spell critical rate by 30% and gave 50% critical damage. The second and third effects were still sealed, and their abilities were unknown. They would unlock after entering the first phase of the quest. White Knight especially liked how strong the spell crit bonus was. He loved how the harvest this time had gone far beyond his expectations. With everything collected, he finally set off to meet Wealthy World. At the entrance of the dungeon, Cotton Candy asked Wealthy World when they were going in. The sun was already setting, and Hegemony had entered the dungeon ages ago. Wealthy World replied that they should wait a little longer. Then White Knight finally came out, and she greeted him right away. White Knight looked surprised that they were actually waiting for him. She asked if he had brought the items. She also asked if they needed to change locations for the trade. He told her there was no need, and they could complete the trade right there. He then summoned his skeletons, which instantly spooked everyone nearby. Wealthy World said his strength was truly terrifying. In her mind, she was already certain that he must be an SSS rank talent player. White Knight told her that her talent was the one people would really envy. He told her that he had a lot of items, and asked if she could really eat the whole batch alone. She confidently assured him that it wouldn't be a problem. He then took out all the items, and everyone was stunned. Cotton Candy was especially happy because there were so many skill books and they were D rank. She had never even heard of some of them before. Ah Wei was thrilled by the sheer amount of equipment. Wealthy World simply told White Knight to name his price, and she would buy everything. He replied that Black Iron grade equipment cost 5 silver, Bronze grade cost 20 silver, and D-rank skill books cost 20 gold. She had no problem with the price, and immediately threw him the coins. He accepted them. After that, she asked him to bring out the real good stuff. He calmly replied that he had it. He dumped everything out again, and their jaws dropped when they saw the gold-grade equipment, the C-rank skill book, and several other high-quality items. White Knight pointed out that it looked like her money might not be enough. She admitted that they couldn't afford all of it right now. He told her that he could hand it over first, and they could settle the remaining payment tomorrow. He wasn't worried about her running away with the goods since they could simply sign a system trade contract. Since he was being so straightforward, she decided not to act polite anymore and asked him to state the total price. He said everything else was negotiable, but the skill book in his hand alone was worth 500 gold coins. It was the Resurrection Skill Book. It was C rank, had no level requirement, and was an active skill. It allowed the user to revive a target player outside of combat while also reducing their death penalty by 50%. The cast range was 50 meters, the cast time was 5 seconds, and the cooldown was 60 seconds. It consumed 300 mana, and only someone with a priest-class profession could learn it. Cotton Candy was overjoyed when she saw it. Wealthy World agreed to the deal and promised to pay the remaining gold tomorrow. White Knight remembered that the first effect of the God of Wealth talent allowed the user to shake the money tree once a day, randomly obtaining 1 to 999 gold coins. Her confidence in being able to pay 500 gold tomorrow must come from the other 2 effects of that powerful talent. He also remembered that their first kill of the bronze grade boss had rewarded them with 2 life soul stones. So he asked if they wanted to make another deal. He could guarantee that they would take the first clear of the nightmare difficulty Mist Forest and also gain the strength needed to grind the hell difficulty. However, his condition was simple. He wanted the life soul stones from the Mist Forest first clear, along with the ones they currently had. Wealthy World and Maple Leaf Xiaoxiao looked at each other, then both agreed to the deal. In the dungeon, while everyone else was busy fighting monsters, White Knight was just chilling. He kept receiving notifications about monsters being killed and the experience he gained from it. Even with only 1 drop of blood, life was still sweet, and his leveling speed wasn't slowed down at all. The system notified him that he had reached level 9. He gained +1 attribute, +1 skill point, and +15 free attribute points. At the same time, he wondered where the appraiser had gone. He had run all that way just to find the appraiser and identify his equipment, yet he didn't even see a shadow of the guy. He couldn't understand why a perfectly good appraiser loved painting so much. Instead of staying in the shop and doing his job, the guy ran off to the grasslands to sketch scenery. Just then, the system suddenly notified him that his skeleton champion had died. The Cataclysm trait was triggered. His skeleton champion resurrected in the summon space with full status. However, the skeleton champion could not trigger the resurrection effect again for 60 minutes. He didn't expect it to be killed instantly. The skeleton champion had nearly 150,000 health points, yet it was still killed in a single moment. He wondered if the appraiser had done it. If he had known that a non-player character could be this strong, he would have definitely saved more of his lifespan earlier. While White Knight was checking below the cliff, someone suddenly appeared behind him and said he wasn't bad for someone who could summon so many piles of broken bones. This man was Huai Jian, the appraiser and painter of Novice Village number 9527. His level and health points were unknown. White Knight immediately noticed his terrifying speed. Jian said he rarely came out in such a good mood to sketch scenery, yet that kid's pile of bones had completely ruined it. He told White Knight to speak and asked how he planned to compensate. White Knight asked if paying money would be acceptable. Jian took the pouch and asked if he really looked like someone who needed money. Still, he wasn't unreasonable. He said he would charge 100 coins, and White Knight could also take the painting. After all, his work wasn't something just anyone could get their hands on, so the kid should actually be grateful. White Knight opened the painting and silently thought that even a 3-year-old could probably draw better. Jian noticed his expression, and a dangerous aura immediately spread around him. White Knight quickly clarified that he had misunderstood. He explained that he simply wanted to calm his mind and wash his hands first, so he could properly appreciate the insights Jian had poured into the painting. That answer pleased Jian. He said the kid wasn't that bad after all. Since he happened to be in a good mood, he asked if White Knight had anything that needed appraisal, because he would do it for free. White Knight immediately thanked him. Jian inspected the equipment and commented that White Knight's strength wasn't bad, and his luck was pretty good too. Then he muttered that for 100 coins he had appraised 4 items, which meant he had actually lost big this time. Jian chanted a spell, and the details of the equipment appeared. The first item was the Shadow Boots. They were plate armor footwear, level 10, and classified as a dark gold grade item. Durability was 200/200. The requirements were 80 strength and 50 constitution. The stats included plus 75 physical defense, plus 50 magic defense, plus 800 health, plus 20 strength, plus 20 constitution, plus 10 agility, and plus 10% movement speed. The attached skill was Shadow Step, allowing the wearer to fade into the shadows. Movement speed increased by 60%, and damage taken was reduced by 10%. The effect lasted 30 seconds, with a 10-minute cooldown. If he equipped it, he would also automatically learn Ghost Step Dance. The second item was the Heavy Bone Armor, used for the upper body. It was plate armor, level 10, and upgradable 3/3. This was also a dark gold grade item with durability 200/200. The requirements were 100 strength and 80 constitution. The armor granted plus 180 physical defense, plus 120 magic defense, plus 1,200 health, plus 25 strength, and plus 25 constitution. It also reduced physical damage by 100 points. The attached skill was Bone Armor, which allowed the wearer to summon bones to protect the body. When activated, the reduction and reflection effects of the Heavy Bone Armor increased by 300%. The effect lasted 30 seconds, with a 10-minute cooldown. As part of the bone set, 1/2, it also granted plus 10% attack and plus 10% physical defense. The third item was the Heavy Bone Sword, a 2-handed weapon at level 10, also upgradable 3/3 and classified as a dark gold grade item. Its durability was 200/200, and the strength requirement was 120. The weapon granted plus 288 attack and plus 50 strength, and its attacks dealt 30% splash damage. The attached skill was Powerful Strike, giving attacks a chance to deal triple damage. It was also part of the bone set, 1/2. The last item with full details was the Necklace of the Dead. It was a level 10 dark gold grade necklace with durability 200/200. The requirement was 100 spirit. It granted plus 80 spell power, plus 500 health, plus 1,000 mana, plus 30 spirit, plus 10 constitution, and plus 10 agility. Its attacks could apply a curse effect, reducing the target's dual defenses by 100 points. Summoned creatures could also trigger this effect. The attached skill was the Dead, which reduced fear-type negative status effects on the wearer by 50%. Jian told him that under normal circumstances, just one of those items would cost 100 gold to appraise. That meant White Knight had already gotten a huge bargain. He warned him to keep that pile of broken bones away from him and not disturb his sketching again. White Knight then asked him to wait for a moment. Jian was getting annoyed. He asked if White Knight still had more dark gold equipment to appraise. Deep down, he regretted agreeing to do the appraisal for free. It really felt like he had lost big this time. To his surprise, the kid actually had epic grade equipment as well. White Knight simply said he had just been lucky. The item was the Robes of the Dead's Whisper. White Knight took this opportunity to have it appraised for free, since the dark gold appraisal fee earlier had already been painfully expensive. Jian kept his word and said the appraisal would indeed be free, and he wouldn't take any money from him. However, his appraisal technique level was too low, so he couldn't appraise that item at all. White Knight was shocked to hear that. Jian argued that he was only a part-time appraiser in a novice village, so it was perfectly reasonable that he couldn't appraise epic-grade equipment. When White Knight thought about it, the old man's explanation actually made sense. So Jian offered to teach him an appraisal technique instead. For White Knight, this was actually great news. If he learned it, he wouldn't have to spend money on appraisal fees in the future. However, Jian said he would need to pay tuition first. White Knight asked how much it would cost. Jian raised 5 fingers, so White Knight guessed it meant 500 coins. Jian confirmed he was correct, but it wasn't 500 gold coins, it was 500 ancient gold coins. Ancient gold coins were part of the first batch of coins ever minted. They had long stopped circulating and technically had no official value, but to certain ancient collectors, their value far exceeded ordinary gold coins. White Knight suddenly remembered that when copper coins were upgraded, they became ancient copper coins. And he actually had some right inside his backpack. That made him wonder, if gold coins were upgraded, would they also become ancient gold coins? At that moment, the system notified him that Jian had added him as a friend. He had also received a mission called Collect Ancient Gold Coins. The task was to gather 500 ancient gold coins for Jian. The reward would be the subclass skill, Basic Appraisal Technique. Jian was about to leave when White Knight suddenly asked him to wait again. That only made Jian more annoyed. But when he turned around, he saw White Knight holding a huge bag of coins. His jaw dropped when he saw just how many ancient coins were inside. White Knight then asked calmly if Jian could now teach him the appraisal technique. Jian was clearly pleased. He admitted the kid had given him a very pleasant surprise. He handed over the skill book, and just like that, White Knight completed the hidden mission and received his reward. Jian left immediately, but before going, he told White Knight to come find him again once he had 10,000 ancient gold coins. If he did, Jian promised he would give him another surprise. With that, White Knight received a new mission called Collect Ancient Gold Coins 2. This time, he had to gather 10,000 ancient gold coins, though the reward was still unknown. White Knight found him interesting, especially since the old man promised to give him a big surprise. A basic appraisal technique obviously couldn't satisfy him, so he promoted it and obtained the intermediate appraisal technique. After learning this subclass skill, he earned the title Intermediate Appraiser. His current technique proficiency was 0/1000. As the skill proficiency increased, the success rate of his appraisal would improve slightly. The success rate for dark gold grade equipment was 60%, while epic grade equipment only had a 10% success rate. The cast time was 5 seconds, the cooldown was 60 seconds, and it consumed 1,000 mana. Subclass skills did not occupy the player's skill slots. Now he began appraising his item. But it failed. After all, the success rate was only 10%. It made him wonder if his luck was really that bad. He kept trying, and the system kept telling him the appraisal had failed. He stayed stubborn and continued until he eventually got tired. Suddenly, he received a notification that a wild treasure chest had been discovered. Today had truly been a day full of surprises. If the treasure chest was guarded by a high-level monster, then he had clearly hit the jackpot. He decided to go check it out. The treasure chest was guarded by wolves. He was glad to see that things were exactly as he expected. He called the boys over to get to work. The skeletons immediately charged the monsters. The large wolf monster let out a loud howl, calling more members of its pack. White Knight didn't mind. When it came to numbers, he welcomed the challenge. The skeletons cut down the wolves one after another. The large wolf monster struggled in pain before finally breathing its last. White Knight bragged that he hadn't even finished lining up his skeletons yet, and the monster was already dead. The system notified him that he had killed a level 10 reinforced elite monster, Prairie Vicious Wolf, granting an extra 50% level gap bonus and plus 450 experience points. He had also killed a level 10 silver grade boss, Prairie Wolf King, gaining another 50% level gap bonus and plus 36,000 experience points. The loot included 1 gold coin and 38 silver coins. He also obtained a level 1 agility gem and 1 basic skill book. His level increased to level 10, granting plus 1 to 4 attributes, plus 1 skill point, and plus 15 free attribute points. He also became the first player in the Myriad Worlds game Blue Star Zone to reach level 10, earning the title Far Ahead. White Knight then became curious about something. Could wild treasure chests also be promoted? So he tried it. The promotion succeeded. White Knight opened the chest. He obtained a gold-grade equipment called the Withered Wood Staff. There was also a gold-grade treasure map. He felt slightly disappointed that there were only 2 items inside. However, the treasure map quickly caught his interest. According to the map's guidance, it would lead him to a gold-grade treasure chest. The system asked if he wanted to use the treasure map. Once used, the treasure hunting route would be marked on the system map. The destination coordinates of this treasure map were located outside the novice village. The system then notified him that his level had reached the novice village limit. He needed to find the village chief and report to his affiliated city. Otherwise, he would no longer gain experience points. That was when he realized that players had to leave the novice village once they reached level 10. He decided to find the village chief first, and while he was at it, he casually promoted the treasure map. After the promotion, it became a dark, gold-grade treasure map. The route immediately appeared on his map, and the destination coordinates were now located outside Jingu City. The system instructed him to go there to begin the treasure hunt. The route was extremely far, and it would require him to travel abroad. For now, he accepted that he wouldn't be able to get it yet. Meanwhile, Guildmaster Hongtu came out of the dungeon. The system announced in Novice Village number 9527 that Hegemony Guild had achieved the first clear of the hard difficulty Land of Mist dungeon. Guildmaster Hongtu immediately told his men to get ready, because they would challenge the nightmare difficulty right away. Suddenly, another announcement appeared. It stated that Wealthy World had led a squad to achieve the first clear of the nightmare difficulty of the Land of Mist dungeon. Guildmaster Hongtu was shocked that they had beaten them to it. He demanded to know how they managed to clear nightmare difficulty so quickly. Wealthy World simply wished him good luck. He was irritated that White Knight had only sold equipment and skill books to her. Now that White Knight dared to go against him, Hongtu swore that he would make him pay. Wealthy World then told her team to rest for a while, because they would soon begin farming the Hell difficulty. At that moment, another Blue Star announcement appeared. The system congratulated Divine Dragon Empire player White Knight for becoming the first player in the Blue Star Zone to reach level 10. Because of this milestone, the Novice Village level leaderboard opened ahead of schedule. The Novice Village number 9527 leaderboard was displayed. First place was White Knight, level 10, no faction. Second place was Maple Leaf Xiaoxiao, level 5, no faction. Third place was Awe, level 5, no faction. Fourth place was Hard to Wake Up, level 5, no faction. Fifth place was Wealthy World, level 5, no faction. Sixth place was Cotton Candy, level 5, no faction. Seventh place was Grand Hegemony, level 5 from Hegemony Guild. Eighth place was One Sword Seal's Throat, level 5, also from Hegemony Guild. Ninth place was Turkey Flavor Rice Crust, level 5, from Hegemony Guild. 10th place was Milky White Snow, level 5, also from Hegemony Guild. Guildmaster Hongtu was clearly not pleased with these results. Cotton Candy told their boss that White Knight was leveling up incredibly fast. Maple Leaf Xiaoxiao agreed, saying it was like watching someone ride a rocket. During their trade earlier, he had only been level 8, while they were level 5. Since they had already obtained the Life Soul Stones, Wealthy World decided to send them to White Knight. She knew it was extremely important to build a good relationship with someone like him. She told her team they could move freely for now while she went back. Soon after, she met up with him. She handed over 10 basic Life Soul Stones, which were the reward from the first clear. She also told him that if he obtained any good items in the future, she hoped he would remember her first. She promised that price would never be an issue. The system then notified White Knight that his contract with her had been fulfilled. He assured her that as long as she had the money, there would naturally be no shortage of good items. Before leaving, he told her to contact him again once she left the Novice Village. That only confirmed for her that building a good relationship with him had been the right move. White Knight then headed toward a house. He felt that this was the right place. A man with a thick brown beard came out and said he hadn't expected a descender to reach level 10 so quickly. It was the village chief. White Knight told him that he wished to leave the Novice Village. The village chief agreed. He said that the God-forsaken land would eventually belong to the Descenders anyway. Then he told White Knight to follow him. The floor at the center of the house began to glow, and the chief told White Knight to step inside. Their village was affiliated with East Sea City. East Sea City was one of the 10 great level 1 main cities of the Divine Dragon Empire, and also the Empire's most prosperous coastal city. The chief told him that arriving in East Sea City would be the true beginning of his journey. White Knight thanked him and promised that if fate allowed, he would return one day to repay him. After White Knight disappeared, the village chief let out a long sigh. He quietly muttered that the chaotic times of the God-forsaken land were coming again. And this time, he didn't know how many people would die. Meanwhile, Zhu asked Ruyan if she truly believed that White Knight might actually be Mubai. But Ruyan said she didn't care whether he was or not. She was confident that once they met him, he would never escape the palm of her hand. At East Sea City, White Knight had just finished teleporting. He commented that the world felt far too realistic. He was a little disappointed that leaving the Novice Village didn't even give a reward or anything special. Out of nowhere, the system notified him that the Death Scripture had increased to level 10. The Death Scripture profession belonged exclusively to him. It could not be dropped, damaged, or traded. He could summon it or put it away at will. It was currently level 10, matching his character level. Its basic attributes were plus 300 spell power, plus 100 to all attributes, and damage dealt by undead creatures increased by 100%. His summons would also receive this buff. Another effect was Soul Siphon, where targets killed by him or his summons would have a portion of their soul power absorbed by him. When wild monsters were killed by him, their respawn time doubled. When players were killed by him, they would suffer double penalties, including lifespan loss. His current soul points were 0. He needed to consume 1,000 soul points to gain a second chance to open the death scripture. The second special effect would unlock at level 30. The scripture was a book of rules that only he could read, and once certain conditions were met, he could learn the exclusive skills of the Death Sovereign from it. He found the double death penalty and the ability to learn exclusive skills particularly interesting. He opened the book, and the words inside began to float and glow. His own eyes also started glowing. At that moment, he learned a new skill called Death Gaze. The process was painful, but he successfully obtained the skill. Death Gaze was an SSS rank skill, level 1, with 0/50 proficiency. It was an active skill. Its effects were as follows. First, it dealt true damage equal to 50% of his spell power per second for 10 seconds. Second, creatures caught in his gaze would be continuously affected by fear. Third, all creatures with a life level lower than his would immediately have all attributes reduced by 20% when they were gazed upon. This effect depended entirely on life level and could not be reduced by resistance. Fourth, creatures killed by Death Gaze would suffer extreme pain, and after resurrection they would enter a weakened state, with all attributes reduced by 40% for 12 hours. The skill was instant cast, with a 60-second cooldown, and consumed 5% of his maximum mana. Once released, it required no continuous channeling, and its maximum attack range was 100 meters. In simple terms, wherever his gaze fell, death followed like a shadow. He was impressed by the true damage per second, and even more excited about the promotion traits, which could eventually double the damage and double the attack range. However, he also thought the phrase, "whoever you stare at dies," sounded a bit perverted. Suddenly, someone appeared nearby. The man said he didn't expect that, among the Descenders, someone would awaken this kind of power. He told White Knight that he was both lucky and unlucky. White Knight asked him who he was. The man had long silver hair and a beard. His name was Situji, the city lord of East Sea City, and an elder of the Divine Dragon Hall. He was clearly another powerful figure whose level could not be seen. White Knight politely greeted the city lord Situ. Situ's eyes lit up. He said White Knight truly carried the power of death. He could see that White Knight had already changed classes into a sovereign class profession. According to him, a class like that should never appear in the God-forbidden land. Our MC was caught off guard as this person actually saw through his hidden profession. Situ then sighed and said it was a pity. If White Knight walked this path, his future would be far harder than other sovereign classes. Curious, White Knight asked what he meant. Situ said the answer would come through a test. If he passed it, he would learn more about the Death Sovereign. The system suddenly notified him that he had obtained a quest item, the Medal of the Forgotten. He also accepted an epic grade mission called Situ's Test. The goal was simple, but terrifying: clear the Land of the Forgotten and reach 100% exploration rate. The reward was unknown, and strangely, there was no failure penalty. White Knight was stunned. He had just picked up an epic mission for free. Then the medal began counting down to teleport him to the Land of the Forgotten. White Knight panicked. He hadn't even had time to prepare. He was planning to socket gems into his equipment first. He started shouting in frustration, asking where the teleportation array for the Land of the Forgotten even was. He had officially entered the Land of the Forgotten. The epic mission, Situ's Test, had now begun. To complete it, he had to clear the entire area within 72 hours and reach 100% exploration. White Knight immediately summoned his minions. Without them, he wouldn't feel safe for even a second. The skeleton mage appeared. It had 5,080 spirit, 5,080 agility, 5,080 constitution, and 20,640 HP. Its spell power reached 10,160, and its physical defense was 1,693. Its main skill was Fireball, rank E level 9, which dealt 220% of its spell power as fire damage, with a 1.5 second cast time and a 30-second cooldown. White Knight was pleased. Now that his minions had Fireball, their attacks were much more fierce. Soon, enemy skeletons started rushing toward him. They were level 20 normal monsters with 5,000 HP, 210 attack, 120 physical defense, and 80 magic defense. Creatures like these were everywhere in the Land of the Forgotten. Weak, but annoyingly plentiful. White Knight gave the order: all forces attack. The system notified him that he had killed a level 20 skeleton. He received a 50% level gap bonus, gaining plus 30 experience points. His far ahead skill also activated, giving him an extra plus 6 experience. White Knight frowned a little. He wondered why these level 20 monsters gave less experience than the level 10 wild bison earlier. Still, it worked out for him. There were skeletons everywhere. The system kept notifying him again and again as more level 20 skeletons fell. White Knight then decided to test his new skill, Death Gaze. The moment he used it, the skeletons dropped instantly. One hit was enough. He was impressed. The skill solved the problem immediately, though it was a bit ironic. Skeletons were already dead, and he was still killing them again. He continued attacking without holding back and quickly refilled his mana. Then he opened the death scripture. It showed 0 soul points. White Knight stared at the screen in confusion. That made no sense. He was certain he had siphoned the souls of the monsters he killed. So where did all the soul points go? Suddenly, a voice echoed through the area. It said that this place was the land of the forgotten. When they were alive, they had suffered a terrible curse, and their souls had been locked here ever since. A soul soon appeared and introduced himself as Road, one of the forgotten. He was a level 20 special elite soul form with 100,000 over 100,000 HP. His soul body was immune to physical damage. White Knight asked what this curse was about. Road explained that souls here could not be collected unless the curse was lifted. Curious, White Knight asked how to remove it. Road pointed toward a nearby pillar of light. When White Knight looked closer, he saw a chained coffin. The top of its lid was broken, and a creepy skeleton with long black hair was peeking out. Naturally, White Knight wanted to take a closer look. When they approached, even his skeleton minions hesitated. White Knight asked what was so strange about the coffin. It was called the Soul-Locking Coffin. It had 1 million/1 million shield value, 1,000 physical defense, and 1,000 magic defense. The system notified him that discovering the coffin increased his exploration rate by 2%. Destroying it would increase the rate by another 3%. However, there was a warning. Once the coffin was destroyed, a terrifying existence would be released. He was advised to act according to his ability. Road quickly urged him to destroy it. White Knight, however, was just curious. He wanted to see exactly how terrifying this thing really was. So he ordered his minions to start attacking. The skeletons rushed forward and slashed the coffin from every angle. Blow after blow landed on the lid. Soon, the coffin's shield bar dropped dangerously low. Road began to panic, saying it was about to come out. But White Knight simply watched with interest. Then it happened. A large and fierce skeleton burst out of the coffin. Heavy chains wrapped around its body. This was Neil, one of the forgotten. He was a level 20 dark gold grade boss, a half-frost lich. His HP reached 1,500,000 over 1,500,000. He had 12,800 spell power, 1,500 physical defense, 2,100 magic defense, and 20% elemental resistance. His abilities included frost-type spells and shadow curse spells. He had clearly been trying to transform into a full lich, but had failed halfway. Neil glared at White Knight in fury. This outsider had ruined his transformation. Road panicked and told White Knight to run immediately, but Neil suddenly paused. He sensed something inside White Knight's body, a thick and powerful death aura. If he absorbed that energy, he believed he could finally complete his transformation. White Knight raised an eyebrow and calmly asked him one thing. Who gave you the confidence to think you could do that? Then he ordered his skeleton squad to attack. The skeletons rushed forward and struck Neil from all sides. Neil didn't look worried. His defenses were extremely high. He believed these weak undead could never break through. Then he smashed several of White Knight's skeletons with brutal force. But he suddenly froze when arrows began raining down from the skeleton archers. Neil stared at White Knight in shock. He demanded to know who he really was to summon so many powerful undead creatures. He quickly raised a frost shield to block the arrows. Then Neil called his own servants. The first was a ghoul, level 20, with 150,000/150,000 HP, 1,960 attack, 800 physical defense, and 700 magic defense. Its skills were Iron Hook Strike and Disease Cloud. The creature looked horrifying, stitched together from pieces of different corpses. The other servants were ghoul minions. They were also level 20, each with 80,000 HP, 1,580 attack, 500 physical defense, and 420 magic defense. Their skill was Gnaw. Their mouths constantly gave off the smell of rotting flesh. White Knight wrinkled his nose. He complained that the battlefield suddenly smelled terrible. So he decided to use his new skill, Death Gaze. The system notified him that Death Gaze had been used on Neil, the Forgotten. Because White Knight's life level was higher than Neil's, all of Neil's attributes were reduced by 40%. White Knight blinked. He wondered if becoming a Death Sovereign had raised his life level. Meanwhile, Neil felt his power suddenly drop. He couldn't understand what had just happened. White Knight didn't waste time. He ordered his minions to deal with the rotten fish and stinky shrimp in front of him. Every enemy had to be wiped out. The undead army attacked relentlessly, dealing continuous damage. As Neil was overwhelmed, he screamed in desperation. He shouted that he didn't want to be forgotten. The system notified him that he had killed the level 20 dark gold grade boss, the Forgotten, Neil. He gained a 50% experience bonus, receiving plus 750,000 experience. The Far Ahead skill also activated, giving him an extra plus 150,000 experience. Because of this, White Knight leveled up to level 12. He gained plus 1 point to all 4 attributes, plus 1 skill point, and plus 15 free attribute points. White Knight blinked. He couldn't believe the fight ended that easily. He also obtained a dark gold grade item called the Cursed Crown Fragment. This item was 1/7 of a dark gold grade equipment. If all fragments were collected, the cursed crown would automatically repair itself. But the wearer would suffer a curse and endure constant erosion from death energy. White Knight felt a little annoyed. The small monsters didn't drop anything, and the boss was surprisingly stingy. Still, he had to collect all the fragments. Since they were dark gold fragments, once repaired, the finished item should at least reach epic grade equipment. For now, he decided to keep it. Out of nowhere, Road appeared right in front of him, amazed that White Knight had actually granted Neil his release. He invited White Knight to go kill the next person, then quickly corrected himself. They would go save the next person. Road told him to just follow him since the next one was right ahead, but this time it wouldn't be that easy. White Knight didn't expect there to be another one. White Knight replied that if it was too troublesome, he wouldn't bother going. Road immediately tried to bribe him with a skill book. White Knight squinted at him and asked why he didn't take it out earlier if he already had one. The skill book was called Corpse Explosion. It was an active skill, C rank level 1. It detonated a target corpse or remains, dealing magic damage to all enemies within a 5-meter range. It couldn't be used on boss corpses. The damage was 10% of the target's maximum HP, plus 100% of spell power. The cast range was 30 meters, with instant cast, a 30-second cooldown, and 300 mana cost. When White Knight read it, he realized it was an area of effect skill. He immediately decided to promote it. The skill upgraded into a B-rank skill called Advanced Corpse Explosion. It detonated a corpse within a 10-meter range, still unusable on boss corpses. The damage increased to 15% of the target's max HP, plus 150% spell power. The cast range became 50 meters, still instant cast, with a 30-second cooldown, but the mana cost increased to 600. He used it on an enemy. The explosion burst outward and covered a wide area. White Knight didn't expect the power to be that strong, or the range to be that wide. Road kept praising him, but White Knight ignored the nonsense. He was simply happy to have an AoE skill now. Grinding monsters should become much faster. An hour later, White Knight muttered that the Land of the Forgotten was actually quite huge. Soon he encountered the Forgotten, Walter. This was already his 7th opponent. White Knight used Corpse Explosion on him. Walter refused to die easily. Before falling, he threatened that White Knight would eventually pay the price. In the end, Walter died and dropped loot. White Knight now had 7 fragments. He checked what equipment could be synthesized. Road suddenly yelled at him not to synthesize it, warning that the item would erode him, but the fragments had already begun forming into a crown. White Knight asked Road what nonsense he was talking about. Road stared at the crown with fear and said it was already too late. The system notified White Knight that he had obtained the item Cursed Crown. The fragments fused together and repaired the equipment. His current exploration rate had now reached 50%. Just as he expected, once the fragments were promoted, the final item's grade also increased by 1 level. But the 50% exploration rate meant there were still other monsters remaining. Road urgently told him to throw away the crown immediately. Otherwise, the death energy would erode him, and he would eventually become a walking corpse just like the others here. But White Knight stood there, in a daze. Road shouted again, telling him to throw it away quickly. The system then notified him that he had suffered death energy erosion from the cursed crown. However, the death energy stored in his body had already reached its limit. He could continue absorbing more only after consuming some of it. Any excess death energy would not cause any effect on him. Suddenly, the ground began to tremble. White Knight snapped back to his senses. He asked if there really was such a terrifying enemy here. He immediately ordered the skeleton squad to form a defensive stance. A faint white light began leaking out from the ground. Road instantly realized who was coming, and fear filled his face. A red coffin with golden edges slowly rose from the ground. The system notified that the aura of the cursed crown had awakened Lich Franklin, who had been slumbering beneath the Land of the Forgotten. Road shouted that it was Franklin who had cursed them all. He was the one who turned this place into the Land of the Forgotten. Road begged White Knight to help him kill the monster Franklin. In return, he was willing to pay anything. White Knight realized that this NPC had already become something like a companion to him, so he promised to help. Road's status panel appeared. He was the mayor of Sunset Town, and what stood before White Knight was only a remnant of his soul. He was a level 20 special elite in soul form, with 100,000 over 100,000 HP. His skill was soul possession, which increased the target's main attribute by 20%. His soul form was immune to physical damage. Road had finally recovered his memories. He used to be the mayor of Sunset Town, but now he was the only remaining soul left. White Knight accepted the unique hidden mission, Road's request. The objective was to kill Lich Franklin. The reward was unknown. He also received the soul possession buff, increasing his spirit attribute by 20%. Road thanked White Knight. Franklin was incredibly powerful, so he promised to fight alongside him with everything he had. The Forgotten. Franklin was a level 20 Frost Lich. Because he was in a severely injured state, his level had been reduced. He was still an epic grade boss, with 15 million/15 million HP, 48,000 spell power, 5,000 physical defense, and 8,000 magic defense. His elemental resistances were 95% ice, 30% shadow, and 25% death. His skills included frost spells, shadow spells, and death spells. He was a true lich. Even though his soul had suffered heavy damage, he was still extremely dangerous. Franklin was surprised to see that the pitiful man from back then had actually survived. Then he sensed the power coming from the repaired cursed crown. He called for the crown to return to him, its rightful master. But to his surprise, the crown didn't respond. White Knight calmly said there was no reason the item in his hand should listen to Franklin's summons. The cursed crown head was a legendary grade item usable from level 10 to 20, with 1000/1000 durability. The normal equipment requirement was Franklin, but the Death Sovereign could ignore that requirement and forcefully equip it. After killing the opponent, the equipment restriction would return to normal. Its base attributes were level 15, plus 100 physical defense, plus 200 magic defense, plus 2,000 HP, plus 4,000 mana, and plus 75 to all attributes. White Knight put the crown on. Its effects were as follows: plus 10% spirit, plus 30% curse resistance, and the wearer would suffer continuous energy erosion. One of its skills was Power of Curse, a passive ability that caused all spells to carry a curse effect. It randomly applied 2 curses to the target, lasting 5 seconds, with a 5-second cooldown. The second skill was Curse Aura, an aura-type skill. When activated, all enemies within 100 meters had their speed reduced by 30%. This included attack speed, movement speed, and casting speed. The skill consumed 200 mana per second and had no cooldown. Franklin immediately summoned his Shadow Knights. They were level 20 with 200,000 over 200,000 HP, 6,800 attack, 1,800 physical defense, and 1,800 magic defense. Their skills included Shadow Charge, Power of Shadow, and Shadow Shield. The army of an epic grade boss was clearly much stronger than that of a dark gold boss. White Knight didn't hesitate. He challenged the underlings first and ordered his skeleton squad to charge. The skeleton knights struck the horses of the Shadow Knights, while the skeleton archers rained arrows down on them. White Knight activated Curse Aura. Their speed instantly dropped by 30%. Forget riding horses. At this speed, even a car would crawl like a snail. Franklin could only curse in anger. Meanwhile, White Knight felt quite satisfied. He was now level 15, equipped with 2 legendary items, and the Death Scripture had boosted his attributes significantly. Compared to when he first arrived in the Land of the Forgotten, his stats had nearly doubled. The only disappointment was that the Cursed Crown couldn't be promoted further. Franklin coldly warned him that he was courting death. White Knight replied that he wouldn't even give him a chance to breathe. He immediately used Death Gaze on Franklin. The system judged that White Knight's life level was higher than his opponent's. As a result, the Curse Agony was applied to Franklin, dealing shadow damage equal to 100% of spell power every second for 5 seconds. Franklin was down on his knees. He couldn't believe what was happening. He asked White Knight who he really was. White Knight replied that he didn't need to know. That answer annoyed Franklin. A wretched human dared to insult a great lich. He declared that no matter who White Knight was, he would still be buried in the Land of the Forgotten. A violent tornado burst out of Franklin's chest. He wanted the human dead. On top of that, Franklin wanted our MC's power. He summoned Caucus. This was Caucus, an undead bone dragon. Level 20. It was heavily injured, so its level had dropped. Even so, it was still an epic grade boss. Its health was 20 million out of 20 million. Attack, 12,000. Physical defense, 10,000. Magic defense, 6,000. Death-type elemental resistance, 30%. Its skills were Bone Prison, Bone Spike Hell, and Death Storm. The system notified White Knight that Caxus had appeared, and his exploration rate had now reached 90%. White Knight couldn't believe it. Franklin had actually summoned a bone dragon. Just as he thought, the test given by the City Lord of East Sea City was seriously brutal. Caucus unleashed a blazing breath attack at him. The skeletons quickly formed a defensive barrier and blocked the attack for him. Franklin was stunned. Those were just skeleton warriors. yet they managed to block his bone dragon. The system notified White Knight that he had consumed all his death energy points to reinforce the target skeleton warrior, boosting all its attributes by 640%. He suffered death energy erosion from the cursed crown. His death energy points increased by +10. As he began collecting death energy again, he thought of the crown as a walking power bank. He was excited to demonstrate his power. Franklin was pushed back and became furious. He shouted at White Knight for using his crown. Then he unleashed Frost Hell. The spell shot straight into White Knight's chest. Franklin burst into loud laughter after firing his death ray. With a fragile human body like that, he expected the man to die instantly. But he soon realized something was wrong. This human had learned the life-sharing skill, but that skill wasn't perfect. Franklin immediately cast a powerful spell called Death and Decay. Then he created Bone Prison, trapping our MC inside. He followed it up with Bone Spike Hell. Most of White Knight's skeletons were pierced by spikes that erupted from the ground. White Knight realized Franklin was trying to use area of effect attacks to break his life-sharing. He recalled the unreinforced skeletons to free up summon space. Now Franklin wouldn't be able to break it. Then he ordered the remaining skeletons to capture the leader. If they caught Franklin, the bandits would fall apart. He planned to finish him directly. Franklin was startled when a skeleton suddenly got close. He dealt continuous damage to it. White Knight told his skeleton to endure. The skeleton was eventually torn into pieces. Franklin declared that the human had lost, but White Knight replied that he was joking. The system notified that he had consumed death energy points. He reinforced the skeleton again. Franklin grew frightened when it started approaching him once more. He couldn't move from where he stood. Then the skeleton struck and killed him. The system notified that White Knight had killed Franklin. He gained an extra 70% experience bonus and earned 12.75 million experience points. With that, he advanced to level 17. He gained +1 to all attributes, +1 skill point, and +15 free attribute points. He also defeated the level 20 epic boss, the undead bone dragon, Cacus. He earned a 70% experience bonus and gained 25 million experience points. This pushed his level up to level 19. He gained +1 point to all attributes, +1 skill point, and +15 free attribute points. He also became the first player in the Blue Star Zone to kill an epic grade boss. His reward was +100 to his main attribute, +50 skill points, and 50 intermediate life soul stones. White Knight couldn't help but feel impressed with his progress. He checked the soul stones and realized he no longer had to worry about his lifespan running out. He now had 50 advanced life soul stones, and each one could increase lifespan by 1 year after absorption. Naturally, he absorbed all of them, bringing his lifespan to 51 years. Just like that, his lifespan crisis was completely solved. The system then made a Blue Star Zone announcement. White Knight had become the first player in the entire Blue Star Zone to solo kill an epic grade boss. Wealthy World immediately realized that they had to cling to him tightly. When the announcement spread, Shu told Ruyan that they had to leave the novice village as soon as possible and meet up with this White Knight. Ruyan admitted that he was powerful, but as long as he was a man, whether he was White Knight or Mubai, she was confident he would fall for her charms. White Knight obtained the epic grade special item, Dragon Skull Pendant. When used, it would grant him an epic grade mount, the Undead Bone Dragon. He was amazed by it. Just imagining himself riding an epic flying mount already made him excited. Then he decided to promote it and obtained a legendary grade special item called Frosthorn. If he blew it, he could summon a legendary mount from the undead realm, the Frost Dragon. He blew the horn. An ominous portal then appeared. A dense aura of death suddenly spread through the air. The Frost Dragon appeared. It stared down and didn't expect that the one who summoned it was just a foolish human. Suddenly, a light of purification enveloped it. White Knight panicked and quickly told it not to touch him. Then something unexpected happened. The Frost Dragon suddenly became docile. It willingly accepted becoming his mount. With that, White Knight's mount space was unlocked. A Blue Star announcement was made that White Knight had obtained a mount. At the same time, the Blue Star Zone mount leaderboard was officially opened. The Frost Dragon shrank in size and landed on White Knight's shoulder. White Knight soon discovered that mounts also had leaderboards, and even their own skills. The Frost Dragon was a God-tier advancement class at level 0. Its maximum level could not exceed the player's level by more than 10. It had 100 loyalty points, a 200% movement speed bonus, and health points of 1 million out of 1 million. Its stats would grow with its level. It had mana points of 20,000 out of 20,000, attack power of 12,000, spell power of 80,000, physical defense of 10,000, and magic defense of 12,000. Its elemental resistance included 80% to ice, 70% to water, 60% to dark, and 40% to other elements. Its skills were Frost Dragon Breath, Dragon Might, and Size Reduction. Once it reached certain levels, it would automatically comprehend more skills. Frost Dragon Breath dealt ice damage equal to 300% of its spell power every second to targets within a 5-meter radius, while applying stiffening and slowing effects for up to 10 seconds. Dragon Might released the pressure of the Dragon King, covering all creatures within a 1,000-meter range. Creatures with a lower life level than the Frost Dragon King would have all their attributes reduced by 10% to 20%. The greater the life level gap, the stronger the deterrence. If the level gap doubled, the dragon's effect would also double. Lastly, size reduction allowed the dragon to shrink its body to a certain extent, making it easier to fight or enter narrow places. White Knight was deeply impressed by the power of a mythical grade creature. Meanwhile, other players were going crazy over the new mount leaderboard. They were shocked that White Knight already had a mythical frost dragon. It honestly felt like he was playing a completely different game from everyone else. Some players told others not to compare themselves to White Knight. One of them had just seen his own boss, who was only level 3 and had an F-rank talent. After hearing that, the others suddenly felt much better about their situation. Meanwhile, White Knight was feeding his frost dragon when Rode told him that he had sensed the location of the phylactery. White Knight asked where it was. Rode simply told him to follow him. They went deeper into the forest and soon found Franklin's phylactery. It was an epic grade item with 1 million out of 1 million durability. This was a life-saving item that Franklin had crafted during the peak of his power. It contained his soul fire. As long as the phylactery remained intact, the Lich would never truly die. White Knight couldn't help but feel amused by how absurdly durable it was. Rode said he wanted to personally finish off this guy. Suddenly, Franklin's voice came from the phylactery as he burst into laughter. He mocked Rode and asked what a mere remnant like him could possibly do. Rode was furious. He grabbed the phylactery with both hands and told Franklin to die. Franklin tried to resist, but it was useless. Rode succeeded. He then turned to White Knight and thanked him for everything he had done for Sunset Town. He thanked him sincerely, tears streaming down his face. White Knight immediately received several system notifications. First, he obtained 1,000 soul points, since he had destroyed the soul of the level 20 epic boss, the Forgotten. Franklin, he gained an additional 70% experience bonus and received 12.75 million experience points. This pushed him up to level 20. He gained +1 point to all attributes, +1 skill point, and +15 free attribute points. With this, he completed Rode's request and received an additional 10 million experience points, along with 1,000 gold coins. His exploration rate also reached 100%. This officially completed Situ's test. The system advised him to return to East Sea City and find Situ to claim his reward. He also obtained 1,200,000 gold coins, 20 level 5 attribute gems, 10 epic grade materials called Millennium Ice Crystal, and 24 basic Destiny Soul Stones. At the East Sea City Teleportation Plaza, there still wasn't a single player in the city. That meant no one had reached level 10 yet. Since that was the case, White Knight decided to test his mount first. He summoned his Frost Dragon. It appeared in its original form. Our boy's agenda now is to find Siu and turn in the mission. He climbed onto its back and rode it. Some of the side characters saw the massive shadow that loomed over them, and they couldn't believe it. Eventually, Situ saw him arriving on the Frost Dragon. White Knight had clearly exceeded his expectations. As soon as that White Knight landed, Situ told him to make his pet shrink. Otherwise, his place wouldn't survive all that tossing around. They entered the lounge area. Situ quickly realized that White Knight's profession wasn't as simple as just a sovereign class profession. White Knight asked what he meant. He asked if there was a difference between sovereign class professions. Situ admitted he wasn't completely sure. But since White Knight had completed the test, he was willing to answer some of his questions. Meanwhile, White Knight couldn't help but think that Situ was a little stingy for not giving any mission rewards. Situ explained that in the Myriad Worlds game, professions were divided into tiers. First were normal professions, second were hidden professions and advanced hidden professions. Third were unique hidden professions, and fourth were exclusive hidden professions. White Knight's Death Sovereign belonged to the highest tier, an exclusive hidden profession. Normally, it would have been impossible for someone at his stage to reach that tier. Players only had their first chance to break through at level 29. Even Situ couldn't understand how White Knight had managed to obtain it. Of course, White Knight couldn't exactly explain that it was because of his substitute system, but Situ warned him not to celebrate too early. The stronger the profession, the harder it was to advance. For the Death Sovereign profession to grow stronger, it needed to experience enough death. In the near future, a massive war was destined to erupt in the God-forsaken land. The Divine Dragon Hall, which protected the entire Divine Dragon Empire, hoped that White Knight would travel to different nations to advance and conquer their lands. Only then would the human race truly gain the qualifications to step into the Myriad Worlds. White Knight pointed out that the national borders hadn't opened yet. Situ handed him some documents and told him to find a certain person and deliver the letter. That person would give him a treasure capable of crossing national borders. When White Knight saw the picture attached to the document, he was surprised. It was Jian. The system then notified him that he had signed a contract with the Divine Dragon Hall. From now on, only he would be allowed to advance in other nations. If he violated the contract, he would be hunted down by the Divine Dragon Hall. However, if the Divine Dragon Hall managed to reunify the God-forsaken land, the contract would automatically become void. Situ told him that once he reached the 3rd tier, he would personally recommend White Knight to join the Divine Dragon Hall. Then he gave him something. With that item, White Knight would have unimpeded access throughout EC City. White Knight thanked him. He had received EC Token 007. It was a special item personally crafted by City Lord Situ, and only a very limited number existed. Possessing it made him the master of courtyard number 0007 in EC City. White Knight couldn't hide his excitement. He now owned a house in a Tier 1 city. Situ told him that as long as he held this token, he could do whatever he wanted in EC City. White Knight asked if he could kill people. This shocked Situ. He asked him who he wanted to kill. He answered that there were a few enemies he needed to take care of. He rode his black dragon and roamed around East Sea City. He realized that the city wasn't small. In fact, it looked like it would soon be as big as the capital of the Divine Dragon Empire. He arrived at the place and got off his dragon, but the guards didn't allow him to enter the private courtyard. White Knight threw the token at them. With that, the guards recognized him and let him in. While walking through the massive yard, he muttered that the city lord was quite generous. The system asked if he wanted to change the courtyard's name. He thought for a moment and named it White Knight's Courtyard. The system notified him that White Knight Courtyard had now been set as his teleportation and resurrection point in East Sea City. When he entered the house, he realized he didn't even need to decorate. It was ready to live in. He sat on the couch to relax and learn a new skill. He opened a book that cost him 1,000 soul points. He made a sour face after spending it all at once. The system notified him that he had learned a new skill, Death Domain Leap. It was an SSS rank level 1 active skill. It let him traverse the death domain and move as his mind dictated. It had several effects. First, he could use the death domain to instantly jump to a target location and remove all negative effects on himself. Second, after jumping, he would be protected by the power of death. During that time, he would be immune to all damage and negative effects for 3 seconds. Third, he could create something called a death curtain between 2 locations. He and his allies could move freely through it, but enemies could not pass. Any attacks aimed at the curtain would go straight through it. While the death curtain was active, allies who passed through it wouldn't die even if their health dropped to 0, and they could keep fighting. The skill could be cast instantly. The leap had a 15-second cooldown, used 1% of his max mana, and could reach up to 200 meters. The death curtain had a 120-second cooldown and consumed 1% of his max mana per second while active. It could last up to 30 seconds. After understanding everything, he smirked and realized how useful it was. He thought it was basically teleportation, something he had needed for a long time. He got excited after seeing the skill and said it was another SSS rank ability, calling it awesome. Without wasting time, he decided to test it and created a glowing blue portal in front of him. As soon as the portal formed, he suddenly disappeared, leaving behind a blur where he had been sitting. He suddenly appeared in front of a guard, catching him off guard. The guard was shocked and immediately called out, recognizing him as Lord White Knight. Seeing the guard's reaction, he casually smirked and told him not to be nervous, saying he was just testing a skill. He smirked and wondered if he could use the skill directly into the surrounding space. As he tried it, a glowing blue portal appeared again, and multiple distorted, shadowy figures started getting pulled toward it. The space around them twisted and cracked as the figures were dragged into the portal, like everything nearby was being sucked in by its power. He looked at the result and admitted that it was even stronger than he expected. He realized that this skill could drop the Undead Legion at a specific location, making it practically invincible. Still, he noted one limitation. The SSS rank skill couldn't be upgraded any further. He decided it was time to go out and earn some money. With a confident look, he raised his hand as blue energy swirled around him, forming a powerful portal. Moments later, we see a woman called out to him, saying that if he had extra starstones in the future, he could come find her anytime. He casually agreed while holding a small pouch in his hand. As he walked away, a guard suddenly appeared behind him, and he quickly hid the pouch behind him. He walked down the empty street happily, because he had just made over 200,000 from buying level 3 to 4 stones, promoting them once and then selling them back and forth. He planned to go to the auction house next and see if there was anything good. He made his way there. He stepped inside a grand, luxurious hall filled with ornate decorations and shining chandeliers. He clicked his tongue and thought that it was obviously a place meant for spending money. As he tried to go upstairs, a staff member stopped him politely. She explained that the second floor was an exclusive area for the auction and wasn't open to everyone. She then pointed out that he needed to purchase a ticket first if he wanted to go up. He realized that the cheapest ticket cost 1,000 gold coins, and the items sold there were around a whopping 100,000. It made him curious about how expensive those things were. He held up his token and asked if they would consider that. The staff member was surprised and realized he was a distinguished guest of the city lord. She immediately handed him a VIP card and told him to keep it safe. The VIP card 007 allowed him to teleport directly into a private room whenever an auction started. Hearing this, he casually asked if it was free. She confirmed that it was, adding that the city lord's property would always give him premium treatment. The staff explained that the handling fee for his sales and purchases was only 5%, which was much lower than usual. She also added that if he ever ran short on funds during an auction, they could provide him with an interest-free loan of up to 10,000 soul coins. Hearing that, he asked about the exchange rate between soul coins and gold coins. She explained that generally, one soul coin was worth 10,000 gold coins. Each soul coin carried a trace of time energy equal to 1 unit of lifespan, which required a special method to extract. As for life soul coins, she said they were minted by powerful individuals who extracted the time energy from their soul coins. He realized that both gold coins and soul coins were tied to lifespan and were extremely valuable currencies. He asked if everything he put up for auction could be exchanged into soul coins afterward. The staff confirmed that based on experience, the final transaction price of each level 1 radiant gem would be around 9 to 10 soul coins. She also reminded him that they would take care of handling the entire auction process, and he only needed to pay a 5% fee. Satisfied, he told her to auction all of his items and convert them into soul coins. She agreed and said she would arrange everything right away. As he headed up the stairs, a notification suddenly appeared, saying he had a new message. Meanwhile, outside, a glowing blue portal suddenly appeared in the open area, catching everyone's attention. People around it looked surprised as shadowy figures began to emerge from the portal. Nearby, a girl excitedly said that this must be East Sea City. She then eagerly asked where they should go to meet Lord White Knight. People in the city suddenly looked up and pointed at the sky in shock. They saw a frost dragon flying above, and everyone was amazed that such a creature existed in East Sea City. Maple Leaf Xiaoxiao knew it was White Knight's mount. Cotton Candy wondered when they would be able to have such a strong mount. White Knight arrived where the group was. Looking at them, he remarked that it wasn't bad and that they were leveling up even faster than Grand Hegemon. The group replied that it was thanks to him since he sold them some equipment. Wealth World apologized, explaining that they were only able to give the remaining payment now. He accepted it casually and said there was no problem, adding that since they were new to East Sea City, they should explore it properly, and he would head off first. As he started to leave, she suddenly called out to him and asked him to wait. He turned around, slightly confused. The woman then told him that she had something he might be interested in and showed him a scroll. He realized that SSS rank talents were indeed not to be underestimated. He was amused at how the money tree could really shake out such good stuff. It was the Scroll of Destiny, a legendary great item. After use, he would gain 1 chance to roll the destiny dice. Different outcomes could happen. If he got 1, he would receive a terrible destiny. If he got 2, nothing would happen. If he got numbers 3 to 6, he would be favored by good luck. The higher the number, the better the reward. He looked at the item and immediately understood its value, thinking that in a gambler's eyes, this kind of item could be either a disaster or a huge opportunity. Interested, he asked how much she was selling it for. But instead of answering with a price, she told him it wasn't for sale. He was caught off guard and reacted with confusion. The woman explained that she didn't want money or items. Instead, she wanted to build a long-term partnership with him. She said she was looking for deeper cooperation moving forward. Curious, he asked what kind of cooperation she meant. Before she could fully explain, a portal suddenly opened nearby, and Hongtu stepped out of it, surprising everyone. He looked at them and asked if they had really arrived at East Sea City first. Hongtu looked frustrated and told them to just wait and see. White Knight realized that by this point, player parties with S-rank talents should all be arriving at East Sea City one after another. He expected the adulterous couple to arrive soon. Suddenly, someone stepped out of a portal and looked around in amazement, realizing that this was East Sea City, and that he had finally made it out of the novice village. Wealthy World noticed that White Knight was distracted, so she asked him why. Suddenly, he summoned several skeleton warriors around him and ordered them to surround the area. The skeletons immediately moved out and spread across the place, following his command. White Knight commanded them to surround the teleportation plaza and not let anyone leave. People reacted in shock. Cotton Candy was shocked that the skeletons were all summoned by Lord White Knight. Wealthy World told the others not to move, saying that he clearly had his reasons and that they should just observe for now. Meanwhile, the people surrounded by the skeletons started panicking. They shouted at White Knight, asking what he was doing and why they were being targeted. Some of them demanded to be let out immediately, while others complained that their attributes had suddenly dropped by 20%. He raised his hand and calmly told everyone not to panic. He said he just needed them to cooperate with him on one thing. Then he explained that if anyone wanted to leave, they could exit through the outlet one at a time. But instead of calming down, some people got angry. They started shouting at him, questioning who he thought he was, and mocking him, even threatening him if he kept acting that way. In an instant, a sharp flash cut through the air. Those two men fell instantly. The others were shocked, unable to see what had just happened. They panicked, saying they didn't even catch the attack, while one of them feared that the attacker must have extremely high speed or power. White Knight glared at them and asked if there was anyone else with objections. He rode his frost dragon, and the crowd fell silent. He decided that it was time to begin. His undead army surrounded the area in a perfect circle. He told everyone that those who had no issues could leave through the portal. They formed a line and exited in an orderly fashion. Internally, he knew he would find the people he was looking for. Suddenly, a man named Rising Sun in the east and a woman named Mortal World Misty Rain arrived. They were confused about what was happening. The man in front of them told them that a big shot was looking for someone. The two who had just arrived looked up in shock. Mortal World Misty Rain confirmed their suspicion. Rising Sun in the east realized that Sumubai was White Knight. Their voices were familiar to White Knight, so he recognized them easily. He had been waiting for them to appear, and finally they did. Shu told Ruyan that whether they could continue enjoying the various worlds depended on her now. She smirked, believing that it would only take minimal effort to handle Sumu Bai. With tears at the corner of her eyes, she ran up to him, calling him by his real name. Seeing this, he lowered his gaze slightly and smirked, already prepared for what was about to happen. White Knight told everyone to disperse and clear the area. People were curious and wanted to watch, but they also feared for their safety. Ruyan told him that she had a hard time finding him, and he calmly replied that it was quite a coincidence since he felt the same. Shu spoke up, saying that she had practically turned the entire novice village upside down looking for him. He asked if that was true. Shu even stated that he wouldn't deceive him, but Sumubai knew how arrogant he was when he pulled off his oxygen mask that day. He gave a simple command, ordering his minions to teach them a lesson. This shocked Shu, so he asked what that meant. Sumubai replied that it was simply to make them properly repay their loyalty to him. Then, without hesitation, he commanded his undead to act, telling them to hack him to death as the skeletons rushed in to carry out the attack. One person in the crowd wondered what he was doing and if he was really planning to kill Shu. Shu was left bruised and bloodied. Sumubai asked him how it felt to die. He stood there, surrounded by dark, overwhelming energy, his eyes glowing red. In a cold voice, he asked if he wanted to experience it himself. A sudden slash cut through him. Ruyan received a system notification announcing that Rising Sun in the east had been eliminated by White Knight. She couldn't believe that Sumubai had killed Shu. And now it was her turn. He asked her why she was staying so far away from him when she had just said she had been looking for him all this time. She was trembling with fear. Internally, she wondered how much he knew, or if he knew everything. Wealthy World told White Knight that they should go since the city guards were already there. The guards told White Knight that his commotion was too loud. White Knight told Wealthy World that he would be fine and that he would contact them later. She told him that they would be leaving first. He apologized for causing trouble. The armored man responded politely, saying that although he was an esteemed guest of the city lord, the disturbance was quite large and difficult to explain to his superiors. Hearing that, he calmly reassured him, saying there was no need to worry since he'd already found the people he was looking for and everything would be over soon. He summoned his dragon, which surprised Ruyan. He suddenly grabbed Ruyan and pulled her along without hesitation. With a firm and serious tone, he told her they weren't done yet. Then, moving quickly with dark energy surrounding them, he told her to follow him to the resurrection hall. One of the armored men watched as the dragon flew off into the distance. He realized that the situation was escalating and that they might cause trouble at the resurrection hall next. Deciding to act, he ordered his men to head there immediately. He reassured them that it was a busy downtown area, so they just needed to maintain order and not worry about anything else. The knights responded firmly, ready to move out. At the resurrection hall, Shu was revived in front of a large angel statue. A system message appeared, stating that the resurrection was successful, but it cost 10 years of lifespan. Frustrated and angry, he cursed Mubai, blaming him for what had just happened. Shu arrived at the resurrection hall, and Ruyan was making a fuss trying to explain things to him. He shoved her toward Zhao Shu while asking him how it felt to experience death. Ruyan desperately tried to explain, saying she was forced to do everything and that she had always had his best interests at heart. She begged him to believe her, reminding him of their 5 years together. He looked at her coldly and reminded her of those 5 years, saying she should repay it now. With no hesitation, he raised his hand and gave the order to kill her. Hearing that, she completely panicked and begged for her life, desperately shouting for help. As the attack was carried out, she was struck without mercy. Shu could only stare and mutter that it was over. Shu bowed and admitted to White Knight that he was wrong, begging for mercy. But our MC just kicked him, smashing his face straight into the ground. After death, if they don't actively resurrect, their bodies can only be maintained for 30 minutes. He stared at their corpses and muttered that they were just getting what they deserved. Half an hour later, they resurrected, but lost 10 years of their lifespan. Ruyan immediately begged him to spare her life. She was terrified, because if he killed her again, it would truly be the end for her. He asked if they even thought twice when they cut off his oxygen supply. He kicked her into the wall, saying killing her would only dirty his hands. He called her a woman with a heart like a snake and a scorpion, then told her to get lost. After that, he walked out of the hall. He felt relieved, finally getting his revenge. Now, it was time to enjoy the myriad worlds. The guards asked if he was done. He said yes, since the adulterous couple had received the punishment they deserved. He apologized to the guards for the trouble. After that, the guards withdrew. White Knight felt good. He decided to sweep up some loot first, then earn gold to upgrade his equipment. White Knight walked through a portal and returned to the city, blending into the crowd. While walking, he checked what he had and thought that searching through main cities for hidden tasks and making money through trading was still too inefficient. Just then, a message from Wealthy World popped up. She wanted to discuss something with him. They sat across from each other at a table filled with food. He asked her directly what she wanted from him. She said she would be straightforward, and he encouraged her to speak. She knew that he was aware her combat power was lacking, but when it came to making money, no one could beat her. With that said, she planned to establish a chamber of commerce and cooperate deeply with him. She believed that with his strength plus her financial resources, rising in that God-forbidden land was just around the corner. He answered, saying he wouldn't cooperate. Then he added that what he actually needed was an agent. He casually brought out a pile of gems, which shocked her. He explained that his talent allowed him to consume resources and upgrade an item by 1 grade. Hearing this, she was shocked and asked if such a talent really existed. He told her that he would give her 1% profit, and she just needed to handle matters for him. She told him she could act as his agent, but she wanted 10 million gold coins so she could change her profession at once. Hearing that, he was surprised and asked if she was serious about asking for that much. She explained that she would sign a soul contract with him if he helped her complete a class change. For all subsequent profits, she planned to keep 5%. He asked what she meant. She then revealed her status window. Her skill allowed her to accumulate massive wealth, and once she reached 10 million gold coins for the first time, her class would evolve into a hidden unique profession called God of Wealth. He realized that if she had been given more time to grow, it might have taken years before she could reach 10 million. He asked her seriously if she was really sure about the deal. She confidently said she had never been more serious. With that, they shook hands and agreed to work together. A system notification appeared, confirming that the contract between White Knight and Wealthy World had been successfully signed. From then on, she would have full authority to handle all commercial affairs between both parties. The ownership of 95% of his future wealth would belong to White Knight. Anyone who broke the contract would have their soul destroyed. Without wasting time, he gave her 10 million gold coins and told her to change her class first. As she accepted it, a golden light burst around her. In the next moment, her class successfully evolved into the hidden profession, God of Wealth. He asked if she had gained any new skills. She told him she got 2. The first skill was Money Shield, a passive skill with no level. For every gold coin she possessed in her backpack, she would gain 1 shield point. The limit was 100,000. If she didn't suffer an attack for 10 minutes, the shield would refresh again. Next was God of Wealth's Ingot, a profession-exclusive offhand item. It couldn't be dropped or traded. It was level 10 and scaled with her. This increased all her attributes by plus 50 and gave plus 2,000 health points and mana points. It had a special effect that needed to be unlocked first. With this, she could learn the God of Wealth's professional skills, but the price wouldn't be cheap. As he looked at it, he realized that this hidden class was like a powerful upgrade, similar to the death scripture. She was happy to see that her fortune tree had grown so much. She shook it, and about 680 soul coins fell out. On top of that, there was also an advanced life soul stone. She gave him a crystal and excitedly told him to hurry up and use his talent to upgrade the item. Taking the crystal, he activated his ability. As the energy surged, the item began to glow and evolve. The system displayed that it was a life soul crystal, a rare special treasure. After absorption, it would increase lifespan by 100 years. If he died, it would lose 1/10 of its value, and he would lose 10 years of lifespan. She was impressed. Suddenly, a system announcement appeared, revealing that the Blue Star Zone rankings had been unlocked. It showed that White Knight was currently in first place at level 20, ahead of the others. Seeing this, they realized that the novice protection period was about to end, and the rankings were now active. After that, he reassured her not to worry, saying the Myriad Worlds was full of opportunities to make money. He handed her a VIP card for the East Sea City auction house and told her to manage it well. And besides that, he also had a property that he wanted her to manage. When she asked where he was going, he smirked and said she should focus on experiencing the auction house properly. He was going to turn it into a quest. At Red Maple City's Yinchuan waterfall, Jian was painting. White Knight arrived to turn in the quest. Jian saw that he had come back early. He showed him his painting. It looked like it was done by a kid. But White Knight showered him with flattery. When Jian calmed down, he admitted that it wasn't bad, mentioning that last time the Book of Death wasn't opened, so he didn't notice. Then he looked at him seriously and asked if he was truly the Death Sovereign, and if the quest had been completed. Jian proudly showed off his painting and asked White Knight what he thought of it. Even though the artwork looked like something a child had drawn, White Knight praised it to the heavens. He called it the most perfect masterpiece in history, and Jian was instantly pleased. He remarked that the Book of Death had not been opened during their last meeting, which was why he failed to recognize White Knight's true identity. Now that he knew White Knight was the Death Sovereign, he asked whether the mission had been completed. White Knight brought out 10,000 ancient gold coins as proof. Jian told him to remember him if he ever came across similar items again. White Knight happily promised that he would never forget. Jian released a surge of green energy. A system notification announced that White Knight had successfully completed the hidden mission of collecting ancient gold coins. As a reward, he obtained a temporary skill called Shadow Chasing Sword Aura. Shadow Chasing Sword Aura was a special temporary skill that did not occupy a skill slot and could only be used once. Upon activation, it would summon an incarnation of Hui Jian's Sword Aura. The incarnation carried a trace of Jian's power and could unleash legendary-grade combat strength for 60 seconds. Its destructive power was so terrifying that the system warned him never to use it inside a city. Otherwise, imprisonment would be unavoidable. White Knight then took out a sealed letter and said he had another favor to ask. After reading the letter, Jian asked if he intended to cross the national border. White Knight replied that he did. Jian waved his hand and created a swirling green portal above them. White Knight asked if they were leaving immediately. Jian stared at him and asked what else they were supposed to do. Back in the city, Aoi noticed the swirling green energy in the sky and wondered if someone was crossing the national border. Wealthy World looked up and smiled, saying that their boss was causing trouble again. Cotton Candy was left speechless and wondered how White Knight could pull off something so unbelievable. Wealthy World smacked Cotton Candy on the head and warned everyone not to ask unnecessary questions. She reminded them to focus on their own work because White Knight was the person who could lead them all to the top. Meanwhile, White Knight and Jian arrived in the meadows of the Tianqi Kingdom. White Knight commented that returning to the country this time did not seem bad at all. Jian dismissed the remark and told him to stop making a fuss over nothing. Suddenly, a system announcement rang out for every player in the Divine Dragon Empire. White Knight had become the first player in the Blue Star Zone to cross a national border. As a reward, his title, leaving everyone in the dust, was upgraded. However, because the national war had not yet begun, the Tianqi Kingdom classified him as an invader. Every faction and player within the kingdom would attempt to drive him out. The system also warned that invaders killed before the war officially started could randomly lose 10% of their experience points or mana. White Knight immediately complained that he had been branded an invader the moment he arrived and noted that the Tianqi Kingdom clearly did not welcome him. Jian told White Knight to play by himself from now on because he had his own matters to attend to. The next moment, he disappeared. Since invaders were not allowed to enter the main city, White Knight decided to wander around instead. Suddenly, he sensed something looming over him. It was a massive, dark-winged, demonic vulture. The system displayed nothing but question marks for its level and health. White Knight was stunned. He had no idea what this giant flying monster was. The creature crashed into the ground and unleashed a violent shockwave that blasted White Knight backward. As soon as he regained his footing, he immediately summoned the Frost Dragon. A massive black-scaled dragon materialized in the sky and released a deafening roar. The dark-winged demonic vulture had 2 heads, and each one unleashed destructive purple energy. The Frost Dragon answered with a blast of freezing blue breath, since neither attack gained the upper hand. The dark-winged demonic vulture took to the air and raised its leg instead. White Knight ordered the Frost Dragon to charge forward. The dark-winged demonic vulture closed in on the Frost Dragon, as if it intended to kick it, but at the last moment it slashed with its claws instead. White Knight was relieved that after upgrading Death Leap, its range had increased to 1,600 meters. The dark-winged demonic vulture stared at them with furious red eyes. White Knight decided to give it a little surprise. Multiple portals opened across the sky as undead soldiers poured out from within. The vulture was visibly taken aback. White Knight looked forward to seeing the dark-winged demonic vulture crushed to death. Deciding he was done playing around, he mounted the frost dragon and left. In the south suburbs forest outside Lijing City, a group of men had gathered. They were searching for White Knight. They shouted about fighting him to the death and swore to teach the invader a lesson. One man proudly declared that they would show him the true strength of their regiment. White Knight called out to the trash. He summoned his undead soldiers to deal with them. The men were shocked to see so many elite bosses appearing in the suburbs. One skeleton warrior raised its broadsword high into the air. The undead warrior brought the blade down in a heavy slash, cutting straight through an enemy. Terrified by the overwhelming power, the remaining fighters screamed for everyone to run from the skeleton warriors. Players gathered outside the city and eagerly discussed the bounty on White Knight. Nobody knew what White Knight looked like, or even whether he was a man or a woman, but everyone wanted to claim the kill for themselves. A group of players questioned a survivor about what had happened. The man explained that he had been attacked by 3 massive skeleton warriors. Moments later, a system prompt informed him that White Knight was the attacker. The crowd was stunned and wondered how a divine dragon summoner could possibly summon skeletons. An elderly man reasoned that White Knight had to be incredibly powerful if he could kill an S-rank talent user in a single hit. He advised the surrounding players to notify everyone nearby that White Knight had been spotted so they could regroup and confront him together. Deep down, the old player knew that charging in recklessly would not work. Having more people made things easier, but he secretly planned to steal the final hit for himself. Deep within the forest, White Knight lounged on a tree branch while a crowd gathered below. He had already expected them to come. They challenged White Knight to come out and fight them one-on-one. Meanwhile, the undead warriors had already taken their positions. Suddenly, several players died without even seeing what hit them. Panic instantly spread through the crowd. A system notification appeared and deducted 1% experience for killing a descender. White Knight grinned when he saw it and decided it was time to properly play with them. He ordered his skeleton warriors to attack while intentionally leaving their enemies with a sliver of health so they could fully experience despair. Realizing that White Knight was behind everything, several players rallied the others and urged them to charge together and kill him. However, a skeleton warrior effortlessly blocked their attack. Then the players suddenly began screaming for help. One player realized he had survived a hit and concluded that the skeletons were not as invincible as they had first appeared. However, he was confused because he still could not even cut through the skeleton's body. White Knight noticed that the enemy players had started fighting among themselves. He impatiently wished the national war would begin already so he could enjoy a proper massacre. Suddenly, someone spotted reinforcements and shouted that the city guards had arrived. The players were relieved and thought they had finally been saved. A group of armored city guards charged forward on horseback and ordered the invader to surrender. White Knight became curious about how strong the city guards actually were. He ordered his skeleton warriors to charge at them. One city guard instantly destroyed a skeleton warrior with a single slash. White Knight was shocked by their strength. He realized he had underestimated them because they were native powerhouses of the Myriad Worlds game. Now he understood that they were not opponents. A descender who had only been in this world for 4 days could casually challenge. The city guards quickly discovered White Knight's location and redirected their charge toward him. White Knight immediately broke into a sweat after realizing his hiding place had been exposed. He activated Death Gaze and unleashed a massive wave of energy. The players were shocked to discover that a single hit could remove 40,000 health points. One man quickly realized that White Knight had no intention of killing them, since he himself only had around 3,000 health. White Knight had already assessed their true strength and found it rather disappointing. However, since the area was still too dangerous, he decided to stop playing with them. He stepped into a portal. The soldier was left confused about where he had gone. White Knight emerged from the portal and arrived in a ruined city littered with corpses. Then he noticed the dark-winged demonic vulture looming overhead. He wondered why the vultures were there and whether they were responsible for slaughtering everyone in the city. When the vulture suddenly dived straight at him, he immediately dodged. He fell into a pond. The vulture let out a piercing shriek. At that moment, a group of armored soldiers riding flying mounts arrived. One of them spotted the dark-winged demonic vulture and immediately ordered everyone to stay alert. White Knight hid behind a tree and noted that the soldiers had arrived at the perfect time, drawing the vulture's attention away from him. The soldiers were immediately attacked. The captain took the hit, causing the other soldiers to worry. They suggested calling for reinforcements at once. The captain believed the dark-winged demonic vulture had already been sealed away. He demanded to know who had broken the seal. Since the battlefield was already descending into chaos, White Knight decided to make it even messier so he could take advantage of the situation and search for treasure. He was also eager to test whether the promotional skill worked on monsters. One soldier noticed the invader and reported his presence to the captain. The soldiers all wondered what he was trying to do. White Knight raised his hand toward the sky and targeted the dark-winged demonic vulture. A pillar of golden light descended and struck the monster. The sudden surge of energy caused it to evolve into a legendary grade boss. The soldiers watched in complete disbelief. The captain wondered if White Knight was responsible. He immediately ordered his men to call for reinforcements. One of the soldiers grimly replied that it was already too late for that. The newly evolved creature grew even more heads and expanded into a colossal monster. The soldiers quickly retreated. They knew they stood no chance against it. One soldier was struck and thrown from his flying mount. The captain realized they were completely outmatched by the creature's new power. He urgently ordered everyone to retreat at once. The captain shouted for his men to lure the monster away while sending a distress call for rescue. Since White Knight was satisfied with the chaos he had caused, he decided it was time to leave. The captain watched him escape and wondered who White Knight really was. White Knight arrived at Apocalypse Map, Shifeng Mountain. Standing at the bottom of the ravine, he confirmed that he had reached the exact location marked on the treasure map. After looking around, he noticed that there were no elite monsters guarding the treasure chest. As he stepped forward, a system notification informed him that he discovered an unlocked dark gold grade treasure chest. He was immediately delighted. He crouched in front of the treasure chest and used promotion. The chest instantly upgraded into a locked epic grade treasure chest. The system then informed him that unlocking it required 36 space crystals. It even mockingly asked whether he was too poor to afford them. White Knight was annoyed since he had wanted to open it for free, only to discover that it was now locked. He wondered what exactly a space crystal was. He sent a message to Wealthy World, instructing her to ask the auction house manager about space crystals and purchase 36 of them. He decided to leave the area first. Not long afterward, Wealthy World greeted him with a cheerful good afternoon. He immediately asked whether she had secured the crystals. Wealthy World explained that space crystals were high-level universal materials mainly used to construct teleportation arrays in major cities. They could also unlock advanced treasure chests, upgrade space tents, and create powerful defensive magic arrays. She then informed him that she had already purchased all 36 crystals and transferred them to him. A system notification confirmed that the space crystals had been successfully traded. White Knight acknowledged the trade and instructed Wealthy World to keep an eye out for special auction items. He specifically told her to prioritize buying Ice-type and Death-type materials whenever possible. She acknowledged the order. White Knight opened the epic-grade treasure chest. The system announced that all 36 space crystals had been consumed. In return, he obtained an epic-grade item called the Ring of Luck. The description simply stated that the ring could bring good luck. White Knight wondered if its true attributes had yet to be unlocked. Suddenly, a global system announcement revealed that Sichuan City had been destroyed by the legendary grade boss, the dark-winged demonic vulture. Because of the disaster, teleportation fees for surviving players were temporarily reduced to 0. The system advised everyone to seek shelter on their own and wished them good luck. Another announcement from the Shangqi Kingdom confirmed that the incident was linked to the invader White Knight. As a result, the bounty on his head increased by another 100%. Meanwhile, in Jingli City of the Tianbai Kingdom, a massive crowd of players filled the streets, complaining loudly about their situation. They despaired over how difficult leveling had become now that White Knight was actively blocking city entrances and killing anyone who tried to leave. Others pointed out that even when he spared them, with a single point of health remaining, any wandering low-level monster could easily finish them off and send them straight back to the respawn point. Some players angrily demanded to know why nobody had captured him yet. Others reminded them that White Knight had already destroyed Sichuan City and even forced a massive boss to kneel before him. They lamented that if they could not even leave the city to complete basic quests, they would never have any hope of catching up to him. Meanwhile, the Frost Dragon flew across a volcanic wasteland. A system prompt informed White Knight that he had successfully discovered Black Bone Valley. After observing the area, he decided it was safe enough. Now that he had accumulated enough soul points, he could finally open the Death Scripture once again. The moment he opened it, he triggered the class advancement quest, Approaching Death. The quest description explained that to truly step onto the path of the Death Sovereign, he needed to bring himself as close to death as possible. He had to precisely reduce his health from full to a single point within a strict 5-second window. If he failed, he would have to start the entire process over from the beginning. White Knight burst out laughing after reading the requirement. He found it hilarious that his permanent 1 health status had become the perfect advantage for completing this quest. He jumped off the Frost Dragon and boasted that the quest was far too easy for him. The system announced that life sharing had been activated and that the class advancement quest had been completed. Suddenly, a flood of system notifications appeared. White Knight had successfully advanced to a Tier 2 profession and unlocked a portion of the Death Sovereign's power. As a result, his profession bonuses had changed. His original skill, Lifelink, had been replaced with life sharing, while Summon Amplification had been replaced with Death Conscription. He also received a skill conversion privilege, allowing one of his existing skills to transform into a Death Sovereign profession skill. Since he was the first player in the Blue Star Zone to advance to Tier 2, he received an additional 100 points to all main attributes, 50 skill points, and an intermediate reward. White Knight was amazed by just how powerful the Death Sovereign profession was. He immediately decided to promote his skills even further. A system notification appeared, announcing that White Knight's S-rank skill, Life Sharing, had successfully evolved into the SS rank passive skill, Death Contract. This new ability forcibly distributed and shared all incoming damage among his contracted creatures. As long as even one contracted creature remained alive, no attack could directly damage his main body. In addition, he could extract health from any number of contracted creatures at any time and redistribute it equally to restore other targets. Immediately afterward, another notification appeared, revealing that his SS rank skill, Death Conscription, had been upgraded into the SSS rank passive skill, Death Edict. This passive skill had no level limit. It completely removed the cooldown from all summoning abilities, increased the attributes of all summons by 100%, expanded the capacity of ordinary summoning space by 30%, and increased commander summoning space by 10%. Furthermore, every summoned creature would automatically resurrect once at full status after death. White Knight wondered whether this new ability functioned similarly to creating clones. Suddenly, the Frost Dragon became restless. White Knight quickly realized that it was leveling up. The system announced that the Frost Dragon had surpassed level 30 and officially entered the infant stage. White Knight smiled, finding the situation quite interesting. He mounted the Frost Dragon and decided it was time to deal with the Dark-Wing demonic vulture once again. After unlocking the second effect of the Death Scripture, the Apocalypse Kingdom would become the battlefield of his undead legion. He arrived at the area where the vulture had last appeared, and quickly noticed that the target monster had hidden itself. Looking down from above, he spotted a group gathered outside the fortress gates and realized they were planning something. He asked the Frost Dragon whether it wanted to go cause some chaos. Deciding that sounded fun, he headed down to play with them. Outside the gates, a knight urged the players to hurry and level up while it was still night. He warned them that if White Knight appeared, their only option would be to retreat back into the city. A nearby player questioned how powerful White Knight really was and wondered why people were still trying to capture him. Another brought up the rumors that White Knight was a demon capable of summoning an undead legion thousands strong and asked whether the stories were actually true. Meanwhile, another player confidently declared that he would level up quickly and eventually capture White Knight himself. Their conversation came to an abrupt stop when they spotted the Frost Dragon. They stared at it in confusion and wondered what it was. The crowd immediately panicked and scattered when the Frost Dragon unleashed a powerful frost beam. They instantly realized that White Knight had arrived. White Knight stepped through a portal and arrived at Black Mist Valley. He declared that Xiaoxia City would become the official battlefield of his Heaven Annihilation Legion. Then he summoned his undead army. There were simply too few monsters in the area for it to serve as a proper leveling ground. Suddenly something appeared. It was a massive shadow wolf. White Knight was disappointed. He wondered whether this place was supposed to be a beginner map, because every creature he had encountered so far was only level 1. However, when he checked their health points and damage output, he was surprised to discover that the numbers were anything but low. Wanting the Headless Knight to experience the area as well, he summoned it. The Headless Knight asked who had summoned him. White Knight pointed at the enemies ahead and simply told him to kill them. The Headless Knight charged forward and activated Death Cloud Execute. A massive wave of dark energy swept across the battlefield. The severed head of a monster landed right in front of White Knight, leaving him surprised. He had not expected the Headless Knight to be this savage. A series of system notifications rang out as White Knight defeated a level 55 bronze boss, the Black Wind Wolf leader. Because he was within range of his summon, he received experience points. He also gained an additional 150% experience bonus, totaling 550,000 experience points. On top of that, he obtained a basic skill book and a bronze-grade weapon called the Wolf Fang Dagger. White Knight was shocked when the standard skeletons began evolving into skeleton kings. The first to evolve was the Skeleton King Archer, which reached level 30 with all 4 attributes at 15,379. Its health reached 236,900 out of 236,900. Its attack power rose to 97,600, and its physical defense reached 13,000. Its skills included level 9 Double Shot and level 9 Fatal Snipe. It was a powerful Skeleton King that possessed 3 times the attributes of an elite Skeleton Archer. There were also Skeleton King Mages. These variants also reached level 30 and gained powerful level 9 skills such as Fireball and Sea of Fire. They possessed 3 times the attributes of elite Skeleton Mages. Lastly came the Skeleton King Warriors. They also reached level 30 and gained level 9 skills such as Heavy Strike and Wild Charge. Like the others, they possessed 3 times the attributes of elite Skeleton Warriors. White Knight excitedly declared that he could now form his very own Skeleton Legion. He realized that after Death Conscription had evolved into the SSS rank skill Death Edict, all of his summons had become dramatically stronger. He organized each squad with 1 melee fighter supported by 2 ranged units. Then he laughed wickedly and declared that he would sweep across the entire land. He ordered his army to charge forward and slaughter every monster in sight. This triggered a flood of system notifications. They killed a level 55 Black Wind Wolf leader and gained an additional 150% experience bonus, earning 550,000 experience points. Another target, the level 58 Shadow Panther leader, granted an extra 150% experience bonus and 580,000 experience points. The notifications continued until the system congratulated White Knight for reaching level 31. He received increases to his 4 main attributes, 1 additional skill point, and 25 free attribute points to distribute. At that moment, one of his undead soldiers pointed towards something. He realized it was a portal. He wondered whether they had discovered a hidden dungeon realm. The system identified it as the level 60 dungeon, Myriad Poison Snake Cave. It then asked him to choose a difficulty. The highest available setting was Hell difficulty. White Knight decided to select normal difficulty first. Since the level gap was still significant, he wanted to test the dungeon before taking any risks. The portal glowed as he stepped inside. He arrived within the torchlit tunnels of the Myriad Poison Snake Cave. He ordered the Headless Knight to lead his subordinates and begin clearing the dungeon. Since it was a relatively small dungeon, he intended to finish everything in a single run. Meanwhile, in Xiaoshan City, someone was furious after hearing reports that an invader was targeting their city. The city lord ordered his forces to hold back the intruder with everything they had while he personally went out to arrest him and bring him to justice. Purple energy flared around him as he declared that he would capture White Knight, claim the king's reward, and secure his future advancement. His subordinates addressed him as Lord Matsumoto. They watched in awe as they praised his incredible power. Suddenly, the frost dragon descended from the sky. The city guards riding on flying mounts were shocked that anyone would dare seek their own death. They mocked White Knight and questioned whether he truly thought the city guards were made of mud. They immediately focused all of their attacks on the frost dragon. A player with the A-rank talent projection excitedly declared that he could finally put his ability to use. Another player planned to activate a live broadcast and stream White Knight's capture across the entire Apocalypse Kingdom. The broadcast began. The live stream chat instantly exploded with viewers cheering for the Apocalypse Kingdom and demanding White Knight's defeat. A system notification warned White Knight that his mount was under attack. He found it unbelievable that they actually dared to target his dragon. Since the dungeon was nearly cleared anyway, he decided to respond. He called for his poison snake monsters. Meanwhile, the frost dragon roared and unleashed a massive shockwave. Lord Matsumoto arrived and demanded that White Knight reveal himself. He threatened to count to 3 and kill the frost dragon if White Knight refused to come out. He began counting, but stopped the moment he sensed something. A portal opened, releasing undead soldiers along with countless poison snakes. The crowd was horrified when they saw the poisonous monsters. White Knight sent his army to play with them. The frost dragon let out a deafening roar at Lord Matsumoto. Then the Headless Knight stepped out of the portal and immediately activated Death Charge. The squad captain from earlier led his soldiers atop giant birds. He told them not to fear a bunch of level 30 skeletons and ordered everyone to attack. But White Knight had prepared a special gift for them. The Skeleton King Warrior activated Death Siphon feedback. The system notified White Knight that 500 death energy points had been consumed. The skill doubled the Skeleton King Warrior's main attributes. At the same time, White Knight suffered slight death energy erosion from the cursed crown, causing his death energy to increase slightly. Empowered by the Death Siphon feedback, the Skeleton King Warrior unleashed Heavy Strike. The squad captain scoffed at White Knight's level and remained confident. He believed that no matter how large the skeleton was, it could never withstand his full power attack. He proudly declared that he was a level 60 powerhouse. Unfortunately for him, reality proved otherwise when a single strike dealt 90,000 damage and sent him flying. The headless knight loomed over the captain. The captain's eyes widened in horror as he watched the blade descend toward him. Then Fatal Snipe was unleashed. An arrow pierced through his chest and dealt minus 452,400 damage. He was completely stunned. He immediately charged forward in desperation. However, his attack only dealt minus 461 damage. The surrounding players were horrified. A high-ranking city guard captain could only inflict triple-digit damage against a single skeleton. Terrified by the creature's absurd strength, they realized that if even a summon was this powerful, White Knight himself had to be an absolute monster. Panic spread as they scrambled to flee. White Knight explained that Death Contract allowed all of his summons to equally share incoming damage. Combined with the skeleton's already ridiculous defense and more than 20 undead splitting the damage, it no longer mattered how powerful the enemy was. There was simply no way for them to break through. The captain could only scream in disbelief. The massive Skeleton King warrior erupted with overwhelming blue flames as it prepared to unleash another devastating attack. Lord Matsumoto immediately ordered the city to activate its defensive array and fire every defensive weapon available. He shouted that under no circumstances could they allow the undead army to enter Xiaoshan's city. White Knight merely smirked and wondered how much longer they could keep resisting. The battlefield descended into complete chaos as the defenders desperately called for reinforcements from the royal capital. Meanwhile, inside the secret council of the Apocalypse Kingdom's royal capital, Qi Yaozong, the president of the secret council, questioned his mysterious guest about his intentions. That guest was Huai Jian. Jian casually sipped his tea. He replied that his actions were none of Yaozong's concern. However, moments later, he suddenly ran off, catching Yaozong completely by surprise. He floated into the air, leaving many people stunned as they wondered where this powerful figure had come from and what exactly he intended to do. A messenger urgently reported that Matsumoto Dong, the city lord of Xiaoshan City, was requesting support because White Knight was attacking the city. Upon hearing this, Jian secretly felt proud. The kid had not disappointed him after all. Inwardly, Yaozong wondered which deity they had offended to bring such a disaster upon themselves. He immediately ordered a team to provide support, but Jian made sure they couldn't leave. He told them to stay behind and play with him instead. Then he invited them to experience his sword. Meanwhile, White Knight decided he had played around enough. The Death Scripture had given him a new quest to kill an epic-grade boss, so he headed straight toward it. He wanted to find out what level the boss was. Suddenly, a massive serpent burst out from the depths of the cavern. White Knight immediately ordered his skeleton legion to attack. The giant snake became enraged by the assault. White Knight watched with interest to see how long the boss could survive against his legion. One of the Skeleton King warriors slammed its weapon directly into the serpent, creating a massive shockwave. After noticing the snake's extremely high physical defense, White Knight changed tactics and ordered his summons to switch to magic attacks. Mages unleashed a barrage of blue magical projectiles toward the serpent. The combined assault from the warriors and mages completely overwhelmed the giant snake. The serpent let out a deafening cry of pain. White Knight muttered that no matter how durable a boss was, it had no chance of surviving a siege from his skeleton legion. System notifications appeared one after another, confirming that White Knight had killed the level 60 bronze boss, the Green Scale Snake Leader. He received a 150% experience bonus, worth 1.2 million experience points. The system then announced that White Knight had reached level 42. His main attributes increased, and he gained 1 skill point along with 25 free attribute points. He also received the first clear reward for the Myriad Poison Snake Cave Dungeon, earning 10 random level 3 attribute gems and 1,000 gold coins. A final notification warned that an official Apocalypse Kingdom announcement would begin shortly. White Knight smiled in satisfaction and thought that farming bosses was still the fastest way to level up. He continued deeper into the dungeon. Soon afterward, a global system announcement informed everyone that the invader, White Knight, had claimed the first clear of the Myriad Poison Snake Cave. The announcement sent shockwaves throughout the region. Players stared in disbelief and wondered why an invader who was supposedly besieging Jiaoshan City was instead busy farming dungeon bosses. Many felt both angry and humiliated that an outsider had stolen the zone's milestone first clear achievement. They questioned how White Knight could be progressing so quickly when he had only been in the 30s not long ago. Some wondered if he was secretly a god, while others suspected the game system itself was broken. They lamented that his overwhelming lead made everyone else look like complete jokes. Back in the Divine Dragon Kingdom, the updated leaderboard appeared before everyone. White Knight stood firmly in first place at level 42, while 3-foot Sword Edge remained far behind at level 14. The entire kingdom erupted into heated discussions. Some accused White Knight of using special medicine or exploits to level up so quickly, while others became excited at the thought of exploring Apocalypse Kingdom dungeons themselves. A few players celebrated loudly, proudly declaring that the Divine Dragon Empire was now far ahead of all its competitors. In the Apocalypse Kingdom's royal capital, Jian floated high above the castle. A group of guards was suspended, helplessly in the air as well. Yao Zong demanded to know Jian's identity and questioned why he had infiltrated the royal capital. Jian smirked and casually replied that he had only come to take a few things. Then he suddenly rushed off. Yao Zong immediately panicked and frantically ordered his men to pursue him and find out what the intruder was after. The guards soon arrived at the royal treasury. The captain stared blankly at the scene before him as he confirmed that this was indeed the royal treasury. His subordinate quickly verified that the place had been completely robbed, leaving behind not even a single hair. Suddenly, a kingdom-wide Apocalypse Kingdom system announcement echoed across the land. It warned that because a mysterious invader had successfully breached the royal capital treasury, all players within the kingdom would immediately lose 1 level. Furthermore, until the stolen treasury goods were recovered, all experience earned from hunting monsters would suffer a 50% penalty. The people panicked as despair spread throughout the kingdom. It felt as though the end had arrived. Meanwhile, Yao Zong furiously demanded to know who was responsible for this disaster. Meanwhile, White Knight walked through a dark cavern while a skeleton warrior carried a treasure chest behind him. He was pleased with the harvest he had obtained. Among the loot were even legendary scrolls and life soul stones. Satisfied with the gains, he decided it was time to head back. Suddenly, the death scripture detected clues related to a class equipment set. He wondered why it was suddenly reacting so abnormally. A bright light engulfed him, and a vision appeared within the pages of the book. He stared at the scene and wondered what it meant. Soon, he realized that the location shown in the vision belonged to the Holy Sanctuary Empire. He remembered that it stood on the same level as the Divine Dragon Hall. After the vision faded away, he acknowledged that the Holy Sanctuary Empire was an extremely dangerous place and not something to be provoked lightly. With that in mind, he decided to carefully plan his next steps and return first. White Knight stepped out of a portal and arrived in East Sea City. Wealthy World congratulated him on returning with a full harvest. She added that the entire Divine Dragon Empire now knew that he had wiped out the Heavenly Empress Palace. White Knight had not expected the news to spread so quickly. Wealthy World then mentioned that they could finally establish their Chamber of Commerce and asked him to choose a name. After thinking for a moment, White Knight decided to call it Myriad Worlds. Her group immediately approved of the choice. She proudly declared that their business would one day spread across the Myriad Worlds. She then sent White Knight an invitation to join the Myriad Worlds Chamber of Commerce. The other members followed suit, and they unanimously made him their guildmaster. After that, White Knight told everyone that it was time to sweep the auction house clean. The group eagerly agreed. The Blue Star Zone wealth rankings were updated globally. White Knight ranked first with 36.5 million soul coins. Wealthy World ranked second with 1.921 million soul coins, while Hermes held third place with 2.1865 million gold coins. Further down the rankings, a player named So Poor I Only Have Money occupied the 46th position with 11,000 gold coins. At the same time, a server-wide announcement declared that the Myriad Worlds Chamber of Commerce was recruiting full-time lifestyle players. The chamber promised crafting materials, a monthly salary of 20 gold coins, and a 5% commission after signing a contract. The surrounding players were stunned by the generous offer. They expressed complete disbelief and eagerly asked whether such an incredible opportunity could actually be real. They could not believe that such a good opportunity still existed. As a result, countless players decided to apply. A massive crowd quickly gathered at the registration area. Wealthy World did her best to maintain order. White Knight believed that once they secured enough talented recruits, they could begin expanding into the auction houses of other cities. He confidently declared that within a month, the Myriad Worlds Chamber of Commerce would spread across the entire Divine Dragon Empire. Elsewhere inside a grand chamber, a man ordered his subordinate to gather information on White Knight. This man was Ghost Hand, a deadly assassin. He confidently declared that White Knight would eventually die by his hands. He possessed an SS rank exclusive talent called Divine Concealment. This powerful ability increased the duration of all his invisibility skills by 200%, while reducing their cooldowns by 80%. Furthermore, His invisibility could not be detected by any detection skill below SSS rank. The talent also allowed him to ignore collision with units while invisible, increased his movement speed by 100%, and guaranteed that his first attack after breaking stealth would ignore all defenses and deal 300% damage. Meanwhile, inside the EC City Lord's Mansion, Situji asked White Knight whether he truly planned to travel to the Holy Sanctuary Empire. White Knight explained that there was something there that he wanted. Situji warned him that, unlike the Divine Dragon Empire, the Holy Sanctuary Empire was a much higher-level existence. He asked whether White Knight could avoid going there. Situji explained that it was not impossible to go, but before doing so, he would need to participate in the Divine Dragon Academy's assessment and complete advanced studies there. White Knight immediately accepted and stated that he could begin the assessment right away. Situji raised his staff and decided to lend him a helping hand. As a glowing portal materialized before them, Situji told him to pass the assessment first. He warned that the road ahead might be one he would have to walk alone. White Knight thanked him before stepping through the portal. Situji watched him leave and sighed at the vigor and fearlessness of youth. A system prompt announced that White Knight had entered the consonant's wilderness. Looking across the vast plains filled with giant beasts, he remarked that the scenery was actually quite nice. Suddenly, a massive beast spotted him and charged straight toward him. White Knight was surprised that it attacked without warning. The skeleton warrior dealt with it. White Knight quickly realized that it had only been an ordinary monster. Moments later, the ground began to heat up and flames erupted beneath his feet. A giant flaming beast emerged from the inferno. The system identified it as the Flame Lion Emperor, a level 110 dark gold grade boss with 52,800 out of 52,800 health points. He was completely shocked. He immediately realized that this was the true assessment boss. Without any hesitation, he summoned his undead army. Dozens of skeleton warriors charged forward. They attacked from multiple directions at once. White Knight quickly realized that the boss's damage output was terrifyingly high and understood that this assessment would not be as simple as he had expected. He ordered all ranged units to focus their fire. The Skeleton King archers and mages unleashed a coordinated barrage of arrows and magic at the target, triggering a massive explosion. However, when the smoke finally cleared, the Flame Lion Emperor emerged completely unharmed. The mages unleashed a barrage of fire attacks. Realizing that the Lion Emperor was far stronger than expected, White Knight decided to use his trump card. He summoned the Frost Dragon. The Frost Dragon immediately unleashed a devastating breath of icy energy. The attack froze the beast solid and dealt minus 5,354 damage. White Knight muttered that he had expected something far more impressive from the creature. Suddenly, the ice shattered. The Flame Lion Emperor entered a berserk state. He ordered the Skeleton King to charge. Answering its master's command, the Skeleton King rushed forward. The Lion Emperor roared and unleashed a massive sphere of flaming energy. Then the Skeleton King activated Execute and cleaved straight through it with a powerful slash. White Knight noted the monster's short temper and decided to add even more fuel to the fire. He ordered his ranged units to focus their attacks once again. The relentless barrage of explosions overwhelmed the beast as its health steadily dropped. Eventually, the giant beast was blasted backward and collapsed to the ground. White Knight immediately looked toward the large pile of loot it had dropped. The system notified Mubai that he had received the Goddess of Luck's blessing. As a reward, he obtained 30 epic-grade crystals of fury, 26,400 gold coins, and 112 basic life soul stones. Suddenly, someone remarked that passing the assessment in such a short time meant the profession he had awakened must be a hidden one. He introduced himself as the receptionist in charge of new students. The receptionist opened a massive golden portal and congratulated White Knight for passing the Divine Dragon Academy assessment as its 1,709th student. He then asked him to follow him to the academy. White Knight found it amusing that he had passed so easily. At the same time, he was looking forward to seeing just how impressive the Divine Dragon Academy really was. Upon arriving, White Knight stared at the towering structures of the Divine Dragon Academy in amazement. The receptionist guided him through the enrollment process. Then a stout young man approached him and asked whether he was also a new student and what profession he had awakened. White Knight noticed that the young man possessed a hidden profession as well. He immediately realized that nobody who could enter the Divine Dragon Academy was ordinary. He introduced himself as a necromancer. The student status panel identified him as Madblood Chenchin, a level 49 blood sacrifice priest. Madblood Chenshin looked surprised and asked whether necromancer was a hidden profession. White Knight denied that it was a hidden profession. Madblood Chenshin remarked that he must have worked incredibly hard to reach the Divine Dragon Academy with nothing more than a normal profession. The receptionist eventually led them to the dormitory area. The two excitedly admired the impressive building before them. Madblood Chenshin commented on how incredible it looked. However, the receptionist quickly interrupted them and pointed toward a much more ordinary-looking building. He explained that freshmen who had just entered the academy were not qualified to stay in the hero dormitory. Only students who earned a spot on the leaderboard could live there. For now, they would have to stay in the regular dormitory. The two were immediately disappointed and wondered what kind of people were actually qualified to live inside the hero dormitory. Several nearby students overheard them and began mocking them. One of them was a level 66 Venom Warlock, while the other was a level 68 Forbidden Spell Mage. They mocked White Knight and Madblood Chenshin, calling them weaklings with ordinary professions. Madblood Chenshin immediately lost his temper and shouted back at them. White Knight stopped him and warned him not to act impulsively. The receptionist also reminded them that private fights inside the academy were strictly forbidden and could result in expulsion. Any challenge had to be formally issued through the martial arts arena. The older students continued mocking them. This only made Madblood Chenshin even angrier. White Knight told him to let it go, reminding him that they were currently no match for those students. He suggested returning to the dormitory and getting some rest first. Madblood Chenshin reluctantly agreed, but swore that one day he would teach those people a lesson. White Knight silently decided that as a newcomer, it would be best to hide his strength for the time being. The more he learned about the Divine Dragon Academy, the more interesting it became. The receptionist opened the room and told them to rest for now. He informed them that all freshmen would gather at Divine Dragon Square in 1 hour. They thanked the receptionist. Meanwhile, back at the Chamber of Commerce, everyone was shocked to hear that White Knight had gone to the Divine Dragon Academy. Wealthy World confirmed that White Knight had left everything in their hands and specifically requested not to be disturbed for a while. Cotton Candy remarked that the academy was a place only elite players could enter. Maple Leaf admitted that he was jealous because hidden professions were supposedly required just to qualify. Wealthy World told everyone to stop envying others and focus on leveling up instead, while she took care of the Chamber of Commerce. A massive crowd gathered at Divine Dragon Square as students discussed rumors about the Academy Dean. Standing among the crowd, Madblood Chenshin asked White Knight whether he knew anything about the Dean. White Knight replied that he did not, but pointed out that he was looking at him right now. At that moment, an elderly man dressed in a formal white uniform and blue coat stepped forward. He introduced himself as the Dean of the Divine Dragon Academy and formally welcomed everyone on behalf of the institution. The Dean explained that the Academy had existed for hundreds of years and was the greatest educational institution on the continent. As holographic battle scenes appeared before the students, he declared that only the strong were qualified to enter the Academy and promised that everyone present would become even stronger. The Dean acknowledged that while many believed arriving at the Divine Dragon Academy marked the beginning of their rise, it was actually the beginning of true cruelty. He explained that the Academy enforced a strict last-place elimination system. Only those strong enough to remain on the leaderboard could secure a foothold there. He declared that from this moment onward, their only choice was to become strong and then continue growing even stronger. The Dean then introduced the 4 great instructors of the Academy. Several magical portals opened before the students. The first instructor to appear was Haston, the Nature System instructor. Next came White Tiger, the Strength System instructor. A man then stepped out from a blue portal and was introduced as Lelouch, the Magic System instructor. Finally, a woman wearing an eye patch emerged. The Dean introduced her as Amanda, the Death System instructor. The Dean explained that the 4 great instructors each represented one of the 4 ultimate powers. He told the students that choosing the correct path would guide them toward the pinnacle of strength. The excited students had already made up their minds about which instructor they wanted to follow. Madblood Chenshin turned to White Knight with a worried expression and told him that he was doomed. White Knight asked what was wrong. He explained that he had heard Amanda had a special fetish and enjoyed whipping people. White Knight smirked and joked that he might actually enjoy that. Amanda declared that choosing the death system meant embracing darkness itself. She then ordered the students to enter the portal. She suddenly stopped. White Knight. Confused, he asked what was wrong. She noted that he carried a different kind of death aura and demanded to know what awakened profession talent he possessed. He claimed that he was nothing more than an ordinary necromancer. Amanda accepted the explanation. However, she still found it highly suspicious that an ordinary necromancer could possess such a powerful death aura. Meanwhile, White Knight secretly gloated, knowing that he would surprise her even more in the future. The next day, the students gathered inside a large academy classroom. Amanda stood at the front and announced that since they had chosen the death system, she would be their instructor from now on. She stated that she was not someone who enjoyed wasting time on meaningless introductions. Therefore, the day's lesson would focus on summoned creatures. To demonstrate her point, she summoned a massive, hellfire demon. She explained that the strength of a summoned creature was directly tied to the overall strength of its summoner. White Knight observed that although the death system had enrolled the fewest students, Amanda's strength was clearly anything but weak. One student asked Amanda whether they would ever have the chance to enter a ruin. Amanda replied that students always seemed far more interested in ruins than actual lessons. She explained that at their current level, even the lowest tier ruin would be a near-death experience. Therefore, they were not qualified to enter one yet. Another student then asked how ruins differed from ordinary secret realms if they were truly that dangerous. Amanda explained that not only were ruins far more difficult than secret realms, but each ruin was also unique and would only appear once due to its random nature. White Knight asked for clarification, wondering whether a ruin would disappear forever once it had been cleared. Amanda confirmed that his understanding was correct. She then summoned an illusion of a massive ancient structure and explained that a ruin could be tens or even hundreds of times larger than a secret realm. In order to successfully clear one, adventurers had to locate the specific artifact hidden inside it. The students immediately became excited when they heard the word artifact. Amanda explained that every ruin contained an artifact without exception. The students eagerly begged Amanda to let them see and experience a ruin at least once. Amanda agreed and stated that since they had all chosen the death system, she would allow them to experience the aura of death by taking them to the entrance of a ruin. The students immediately lined up before the portal in excitement. White Knight muttered that the Divine Dragon Academy was proving to be just as interesting as he had expected. In front of a massive door, the students stared in shock at its enormous size and the eerie winds swirling around it. Amanda explained that this was the entrance to a beginner ruin and that ruins could possess multiple entrances scattered across the continent. White Knight asked when the entrance to the ruin would open. Amanda replied that the opening of a ruin was completely random and that it would never remain open for more than 5 minutes. He quietly processed the information. Suddenly, the ground began shaking violently. White Knight wondered why it was trembling so suddenly. Amanda cursed in frustration after realizing that the ruin had chosen that exact moment to open. She immediately warned the students to run, shouting that they absolutely could not allow themselves to be dragged into the ruin by the black mist. A terrifying black mist surged forward and began pulling the students toward it. The students shouted that the force was too powerful. In an instant, all of them were dragged into the vortex. Amanda immediately decided that she needed to report the anomaly to the dean. White Knight viewed the situation as a good opportunity. Even if he had not wanted to enter the ruin, he would have had to eventually. The entire situation excited him. Back at the academy, the dean slammed his fist onto the desk in anger. He could hardly believe that the newly enrolled death system students had somehow entered a beginner ruin. The informant confirmed the news, explaining that the ruin's entrance had suddenly opened for unknown reasons and sucked all 18 freshmen inside. The dean knew that even though it was classified as a beginner ruin, it was still a nightmare-level challenge for students of their level. He immediately ordered them to notify Amanda and organize a rescue team. If that failed, they would have to find a way to venture deep into the ruin themselves and rescue the students. Inside the ruin, White Knight sat up and realized that he had truly been teleported inside. Looking around the massive dark stone halls, he concluded that the other students had likely been scattered throughout the ruin. He remarked that the place felt extremely dangerous. He summoned a few minions first, just to be safe. He admitted that Amanda had been right about the ruin's enormous scale. However, he found it strange that he had not encountered a single monster yet. Suddenly, something moved. He quickly dodged. He immediately turned around to see what had attacked him. The status window identified it as an elite level 40 dark pincer bug. Its terrifying attributes included 900 strength, 796 agility, 930 constitution, and 288 spirit. He could not help but feel disgusted by its appearance. Alright, that's it for today's story. If you want the weekly chapter updates for this series, those will now be uploaded on my second channel, Manhwa Updater. So if you don't want to miss what happens next, make sure to check it out and join the update gang. Thanks for watching, stay cool, stay awesome, and I'll see you in the next one.